Hello friends. This is Fiction Quest. How are you all? So in this video, we will see, what if Naruto is born with 400-year-old bloodline and fell in love with angels, Naruto X Harems. But before we start, if you want more amazing stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, if possible, share this video with your friends. Now, without wasting any more time, let's begin the story. I have always wanted to create a bloodline limit for Naruto, but to be honest, it had been overused with the whole special eyes thing. So I decided to take a different spin. I wanted to create a bloodline limit that Naruto could use that didn't involve eyes like Haku's demonic ice mirrors. So after some brainstorming with one AZN Dragon, my very good friend, this is what I came up with, so I hope you enjoy, as Naruto rests in the arms of angels. Chapter 1. The Demon That Only Angels Could Love. Konoha Village, considered to be the most powerful ninja country in the Fire Country. Not only do some of the most talented ninja in the world reside in the village, but another main part of the village's strength came from the clans that resided within it. The two most common known would be the Hyugas and the Uchihas. However, there was one other clan in the village that possessed a bloodline limit. However, unlike the Hyugas and the Uchihas, this clan's bloodline limit didn't come out from the use of special eyes. This bloodline limit was much more unique. However, the clan's existence came about long before Konoha was ever created. In fact, the clan itself came into existence 400 years before the founding of the village hidden in the leaves. On the day that the Kyuubi attacked, there were only 4 members of the family left, 3 men and 1 woman. The rest of the family had been killed in a mysterious fire that took them while they slept. These 4 had not been with the family at the manor at the time. They had all been out on missions for the village when the disaster occurred. And so, on that fateful day for Konoha, the 3 men of the clan left the woman who was on the verge of giving her child birth and went out to try and buy some time for the 4th Hokage to make it to the front lines. The 3 men who had gone into battle died heroically, buying as much time as they could before the other ninja of the village arrived. And as for the woman, well, the woman died giving birth to the one that would become the sole survivor of her clan. And so, she grasped the hand of the man she loved, and begged him to give him a name worthy of her clan, whose bloodline limit was a mystery even to the leaders of the village present and past. And so, the 4th Hokage of Konoha let his tears fall as his wife left the world. He looked to the crying child and said, "Uzumaki Naruto, my sons, make your clan proud." And so, as history goes, the 4th sealed the Kyuubi into his son, the sole survivor of a clan whose power was a mystery that would not be known until 6 years later. 6 years later, Uzumaki Naruto was hated. He was hated and he didn't know why. At the tender age of 6 years old, he was given cold glares and was cursed by everyone who laid eyes upon him. Only 6 years old, and already Uzumaki Naruto had been beaten nearly to death 4 times. However, on this fateful day, Uzumaki Naruto was about to experience something that would forever change his life. It started out normally. Naruto took a shower and put on his underwear and pants when suddenly a horrible pain shot through his back. Naruto let out a surprised cry and fell to his knees as the pain began to grow stronger and stronger. Naruto arched his back and let out another cry as, unknown to him, a tattoo of a sword with angel wings sticking out of it. Naruto fell onto the ground and began to whimper and scream as the painful sensation went from his back to just below his shoulder blades. Naruto curled up into a ball and then let out a blood-curdling scream as 2 giant white wings exploded from his back, sending pure white feathers flying everywhere. Naruto then collapsed onto his stomach and looked up slightly, only to see what appeared to be a person clothed in white robes and skin that shined as bright as the sun appear before him. The figure kneeled beside Naruto and said, "You have no reason to fear, Lord Naruto, and the pain you are feeling will soon pass. My name is Gabriel, the Archangel of the Heavens. You will soon fall into slumber, but when you awaken I will come to you and explain what is going on. Don't lose hope, Naruto, you must survive. For the sake of everyone you will come to love." And with those words, Naruto's world went black. As this turn of events was being set into motion, a Chunin guard who was on patrol of the area heard the blood-curdling scream and rushed towards the source of the noise. When the Chunin guard peeked through the window, her eyes went wide at the sight she saw. For he saw the Kyuubi container lying on the ground, with large white wings sticking out of his back and pure white feathers were flying everywhere. She watched in a mixture of wonder and confusion as the boy seemed to look up at something before passing out. The Chunin guard watched as the boy's wings disappeared and she quietly entered the house. She cautiously crept up to the boy and saw that he truly was asleep. Knowing that this needed to be reported to the Hokage immediately, the Chunin guard picked the boy up in her arms gently and rushed towards the Hokage manor. At the Hokage manor, the Chunin guard was rushed right into the third's office upon the sight of the boy in her arms. When the third laid eyes upon the boy in her arms, he was on his feet in an instant and rushed to her side asking if he had been attacked again. The Chunin then began to explain the situation and what she saw to the third. The third was quiet for some time before speaking to the Chunin. "Anko, do you know who this boy is?" She replied that she did and explained that he was the container of the Kyuubi and the only one holding the demon back from destroying the village. The third paced a little bit before turning to the woman again, who was setting the boy down gently in a chair. "Who do you live with, Anko?" the third asked slowly. Anko blinked a few times before replying that she of course lived alone. The third nodded again and began to pace back and forth again. "Anko, would you be willing to let this boy live with you?" he asked, looking up at her with serious eyes. To say that Anko was startled was an understatement. Why was he asking this of her? She began to think and came to the realization that he was asking her to do this in order to keep what she saw a secret. "In doing this, am I going to become the boy's guardian? Or are you simply doing this to cover up what I saw, Hokage-sama?" Anko asked, trying to remain polite. The third thought for a moment before speaking. "That is one reason, but the more important reason is that Naruto needs someone to protect him from the villagers who have been blinded by hate, and also because you need someone in your life that can teach you how to love again. I realize that you loved Orochimaru and I also realize that you have come to hate him because of his betrayal, but I believe that this would be a good move, for the both of you. So Anko, will you become the guardian of this boy and accept him into your home? Your pay will of course be raised to help pay for his needs and such things." Anko bit her lip. She really didn't want to do this, but to defy the Hokage was a bad move indeed. She mulled over her thoughts and then looked down at the sleeping boy, which she decided was a mistake because she thought that he looked far too cute sleeping like he was. And so, she hesitantly agreed and signed the papers to become the official guardian of Uzumaki Naruto under the authority of an older sister. And so it began. Anko decided to go to the waiting area as the third waited for Naruto to wake up, which didn't take too long. When the boy woke up, he looked to his right and saw the Hokage looking at him. The Hokage then explained why the boy had been brought here and asked him to explain the past few hours as best as he could. And so, Naruto explained about the pain he felt and how he saw Gabriel, and then he explained that Gabriel told him that he would see him again soon. The third was nervous that this was a trick and also side effects of the demon and asked Naruto to take off his torn and bloody shirt. Naruto turned his back and lifted up the shirt, which immediately caught the attention of the Hokage. The Hokage grabbed the boy by the shoulders gently and asked the boy not to move. He then began to examine the tattoo of the sword with angel's wings. He then noticed that cuts from where the wings had supposedly come out were being healed by the Kyuubi. The third then quietly asked Naruto to put his shirt back on and then turn around and face him. Naruto complied and looked up into the third's eyes. The third coughed gently before speaking. "Naruto, how would you feel about being taken in by someone who can protect you and keep you safe? And maybe even more importantly, show you what the love of family is?" Naruto's eyes filled with tears and he leapt at the third, crying out the word yes over and over again. Anko took this as her cue to step into the room. She closed the door a little loudly to get Naruto's attention and he turned to her. As soon as he set eyes upon her, his eyes went as wide as dinner plates and he asked her if she was going to be his big sister. She could feel a tugging in her heart and she gave a small smile telling him yes. He left the arms of the Hokage and leapt into Anko, hugging her deeply and crying into her vest. The third smiled softly as he watched Anko's eyes soften and she wrapped her arms around him, gently whispering comforting things in his ears. The third knew it was going to be interesting, but he knew in the end that this would be the best for both of them. He then instructed them to go gather all of Naruto's things and to get moved into her home. They nodded and left. The third waited until they were gone before thinking about the tattoo on the boy's back. Indeed, he had a lot of research to do, because for some reason, it all seemed far too familiar. And then there was that name, Gabriel. Why did that seem so familiar to him? He knew it that today was going to be a long day indeed. "This is your home?" Anko asked in a disgusted voice, looking at the trash that was everywhere. Naruto looked down at the ground ashamed and said, "Yes, big sister, I used to clean it up, but the villages would just trash it again, so I stopped trying. Naruto looked up to see Anko shaking with rage. Thinking that Anko was angry at him, Naruto backed away, and when Anko looked at him he raised his hands in a pathetic attempt at defense, waiting to get hit. Anko blinked before realization hit her, and she knew that the boy thought she was angry at him and not the villagers. She stepped up to him and got on one knee, her heart tugging again when she saw him shaking and heard him whimpering in fear. She pulled him into a hug and whispered, "I'm never going to hurt you, and I'm never going to let them hurt you ever again." Anko blinked away her tears, knowing she had to be strong, and she also resolved to never shed tears again after Orochimaru's betrayal. So she just silently rubbed the boy's back as he shed more tears into her vest. Eventually she stopped and decided that Naruto shouldn't live with what he had, so she declared that they were going to the marketplace to buy him new things. Anko told him to grab only the things he absolutely needed that they couldn't buy and to meet her outside. Naruto rubbed his eyes and nodded as he walked into his room. He picked up an old bag and began to put some things the Hokage gave him when he heard a voice that made him jump. "Naruto, do you remember who I am?" Naruto spun on his heel and once again saw the glowing person known as Gabriel. You're Gabriel?" Naruto asked in a timid voice. The glowing person smiled and said, "That's right, Naruto, very good. Now listen to me. The reason that you can see me is because it's part of something you have that is very special, and that is called a bloodline limit. I will explain it more to you later, but for now all you need to know is that if you wish to become a strong ninja, look to that woman who is taking care of you. She will lead you on the path to good strength. Now get moving, she'll get impatient. I'll talk with you later tonight, Naruto." And with that being said, Gabriel disappeared, leaving a very small Naruto slightly confused. He then remembered his task and stuffed a few things into his bag before rushing out to Anko, who gave him a smile and put her hand on his back, leading him towards the marketplace. After about 2 hours of shopping and 6 bags full of things later, Anko and Naruto stopped at the Ichiraku ramen stand for some lunch. They sat down and a girl just a little bit older than Naruto came up and asked for their orders. At first Anko thought she was seeing things, but then she noticed that the girl kept looking at Naruto and blushing. The first thing that popped into Anko's mind was that just like her, this girl liked her guys young. After they had finished eating, Anko nudged Naruto in the side with her elbow and told Naruto to introduce himself to her. Naruto didn't understand why, but he decided that he needed to respect his new sister, so he waved at the girl to get her attention. "Do you need something else?" the girl asked sweetly, and Naruto just shook his head before sticking out his hand and saying, "My name's Naruto." "What's yours?" The girl blushed slightly before saying, "My name's Ayame Naruto-kun." Naruto blushed at the addition to his name and then told her he would see her around before running to catch up with a smiling Anko. And so with bags in hand they walked back to Anko's house. When they arrived, Naruto was surprised to see that the house was 2 stories high. He looked up at Anko and said, "Your house is really big, sis." Anko smiled sadly at the boy and told him that another person used to live in this house, but that he became a bad person and left the village. To her surprise, the boy hugged her and told him that she was sorry that her friend left. And once again Anko felt her eyes filling up with tears at the kindness of the boy clinging to her leg. It disgusted her that the villagers didn't get to know him better, but she decided that she was going to change all of that. They entered the home and Anko showed him to a room that would become his. She then put the bags down on his bed and showed him around her house. When they arrived in the dojo that was in the back, Naruto looked at Anko with fierce determination in his eyes that almost startled the woman. "What's wrong, Naruto-kun?" she asked, and Naruto simply replied that he wanted her to train him to become a strong ninja. She smirked, feeling her fiery spirit rising up, and told him to go put his stuff away and then she would show him some basic things. His eyes lighted up and he then bowed to her before running towards his new room. Anko chuckled to herself, thinking about how much that boy reminded her of herself when she was his age. About 10 minuets later, Naruto came down in some of his new clothes, which included a new pair of sandals, a pair of baggy black shorts, and a fishnet undershirt. Anko grinned because she forgot to explain that the fishnet shirts were undershirts, but she decided that she could explain it to him later. For now, the clothes he was wearing would be perfect for their training. Anko ordered Naruto to sit down and she began to circle him, and she said, "Pay attention, Naruto-kun. What I am about to tell you is the basics for all ninja training. The first thing you need to understand is chakra. It is the physical and spiritual energy that you will use for jutsus and the such. However, everyone only has a certain amount of chakra, and if you run out you die. Do you understand so far? Naruto thought for a few moments before decided he understood and nodded his head. Anko smiled and continued her speech. In order to use your chakra to its full potential, you will have to learn how to only use the amount of chakra needed for everything you do and not a bit more. But before we start on that, I want to explain a few more things. First of all, most people only have one chakra system. However, you are a special case and you have two. I cannot explain to you at this time why you have a second chakra system, so please don't ask me. One day when you are older I will be able to tell you, but that time has not yet come. The last thing I want to teach you today before we work on chakra controlling is the 4 different forms you need to know to be a ninja. The first one is ninjutsu. The most commonly used of ninja skills. You use ninjutsu by using your chakra as a weapon. The second form is genjutsu. Genjutsu is using your chakra to create illusions that confuse your enemy and leave them vulnerable to attack. The third form is taijutsu, which is hand-to-hand combat skills, something every ninja must have. And finally there is kinjutsu. Kinjutsu is very dangerous because it involves techniques that usually result in the user's death and are only to be used in the most extreme of situations. Do you have a basic understanding for the 4 forms of ninja fighting, Naruto-kun? Naruto seemed to be deep in thought but then nodded his head and told her that he thought he understood most of it. Anko grinned, thinking that this kid was pretty smart for his age. She then declared that he was going to learn chakra training by focusing his chakra into his feet and then walking up the dojo's wall. Anko then spent a good half-hour teaching Naruto how to correctly do all of the hand seals. She then spent another half-hour teaching Naruto how to put chakra into his feet, and then she told him that she was going to go prepare dinner and would come back to check on his progress when dinner was ready. She walked out and closed the sliding door to the dojo and winced when she heard him run up the wall some, only to fall harshly. She then breathed a sigh of relief when she heard him get back up and try again. She then walked to the kitchen to prepare dinner. She came back to the dojo about 3 hours later and poked her head in, and her eyes went wide when she saw that Naruto wasn't in there. She felt her heartbeat quicken, thinking that someone had come into her home and snatched him, but then she heard stifled giggling. She looked straight up and gasped to see Naruto standing on the ceiling looking down at her. She noticed all the bruises and scrapes on his body, but she was still speechless that Naruto had completed the task so quickly. He came down from the wall and she hugged him gently, letting him know that she was not only satisfied with his performance but she was also amazed. Naruto gave her a big smile, which made Anko smile a little herself. After much complaining that the main course was not ramen, Anko and Naruto enjoyed a nice grilled chicken dinner with rice and green beans, which Naruto was willing to admit tasted very good as well. After dinner, Naruto stood up and grabbed all the dishes and washed them without being asked to. Anko smiled at the polite boy and took the time to sneak away and look for something. When she came back, Naruto had stacked the plates neatly on the counter because he didn't know where to put them. Anko smiled and told him that she would take care of it later, but for now she had a new exercise that she wanted him to do. When they walked into the dojo, Naruto saw some metal plates lying on the ground. The last exercise you did is the same one you will be doing now, however this time the task will be much harder with the addition of these training weights. Anko explained, and Naruto put on the weights and complained about the heaviness of them. Anko grinned at him and told him she would teach him a jutsu if he completed the task before she called him to bed in 3 hours. She knew that the task would be impossible, but she also knew that if he strived as hard as he could, he would become much stronger and have better chakra control than some modern-day genins had. This time when she heard him try and climb, only to fall, she smiled to herself and went to go put the dishes away and send a letter to the Hokage by her messenger bird. When the time had come for bed, Anko walked back into the room and gasped again when she didn't see Naruto. She looked straight up and saw his grinning face. She watched as his eyes went wide and she gasped as he lost his footing and began to fall. She rushed forward and caught him before he could hit the ground. He had tears in his eyes and told her that he had failed her because he couldn't hold it very well. She simply hugged the boy and told him that he had just done a task that should have been impossible, and she demanded to know how he did it so quickly. He told her it was because he wanted to learn a new jutsu. She smiled at his competitive attitude and told him that for his hard work she would teach him how to do the basic Bunshin no jutsu. And so for the next hour, Anko taught Naruto how to mold chakra into a clone. By the time he had it perfected, he collapsed from Charka exhaustion, and Anko picked the small boy up and took him to his room and placed him in his bed after taking off his sandals. She smiled at him and whispered, "Good night, my dear brother," before turning out the light and walking out of the room. While Naruto slept, Gabriel came to him and entered into his subconscious. Naruto saw Gabriel and ran up to him. "Hello, Gabriel-san." Naruto said politely as he bowed. "Good evening, Naruto-kun. Tonight I am going to explain the things I told you about earlier. One thing that Anko-chan didn't tell you is that some very special people have a bloodline limit that is passed down from generation to generation. You are one of those people, and your ability is very special indeed. But first I must explain your clan's history. Your clan came into existence about 400 years before Kahona was created. Your ancestor was on the verge of death and cried out for help. He found favor in the eyes of my lord, and I was sent down to aid him. From that day on, your family's legacy would continue on with the angels of the Lord. However, about 6 years ago your family was tricked and were killed in their sleep by a horrible man. Only about 4 members of your family survived, including your mother. You other 3 family members were killed during the attack of the Kyuubi, and your mother died in giving birth to you." Gabriel paused, letting the information sink in before continuing. "And now on to what exactly your bloodline limit is. For one, if you focus your chakra into your back, you can summon and retract a pair of large white wings that you can use to fly. And finally, the most important part of your bloodline limit, if you are ever in desperate trouble, anywhere from 1 to 5 angels will come down from the heavens and temporarily merge with your body. This will increase your strength by considerable amounts. However, you will not be able to summon us. We will only be able to come to you in your greatest times of need. However, if you ever need to talk to us, all you have to do is pray to summon us. Now, as to how we are summoned. As you grow in strength, intelligence, and strength of spirit, you will get more and more tattoos that will appear on your back. When you are in trouble, we will come down and merge with your body via the tattoos, and we will exit the same way. These tattoos are a gateway for us to come and go as we see fit. Do you understand all I have taught you, Naruto-kun?" Naruto nodded his head as he continued to digest the information. "Tomorrow, when you have some free time, I will come back and see how your training with Anko-chan is going. And just to let you know, you are going to receive your second tattoo tonight while you sleep, but don't expect it to be easy to get every tattoo. The more you get, the harder they become to obtain. Have a good night, Naruto-kun. See you tomorrow." And when it was all said and done, Naruto had a spiral tattoo on his back. When Naruto woke up, Anko had a breakfast of eggs and toast with some bacon on the table. After they had finished eating, Anko told Naruto that she had to go do some patrol work and that she would be back. In the meantime, she told Naruto to perfect his weight exercise and to continue to wear the weights while he did 10 push-ups and 10 sit-ups and then ran around the dojo 10 times. She also told him that every time the exercise became too easy that he needed to 10 more of each exercise, along with anything else that she gave him to do. And so, this kind of training went on for 5 years. Along with the training physically, Anko would send Naruto to the library on treasure hunts to find information to study, which would always eventually lead him to a jutsu scroll. And so when it was all said and done, Anko realized that there was something that Naruto desperately needed to work on, and that was people skills. And so, with the permission of the Hokage, Naruto was enrolled into the Ninja Academy. Anko told Naruto to behave himself and make lots of friends. She then gave him a kiss on the forehead and watched him run into the academy. She turned and saw the mothers of the students glaring at her. She smirked and returned a glare back, fueling it with killer intent that told them not to mess with her brother. And so she went to the Hokage's office, for she had been summoned for an important meeting. When Naruto walked into the classroom, everyone stopped talking and stared at him, making him quite nervous. Iruka cleared his throat and told the class that this was their new student. He then nodded to Naruto, telling him to introduce himself. He took a step forward and said, "My full name is Uzumaki Mitarashi Naruto. Mitarashi adopted me and is my adoptive sister. I am 12 years old and have been going through her training since I was 6 years old. So that is why I am in a graduating class for my first year. I like training and getting stronger, and I also have a special bloodline limit. However, that is information that I don't give to very main people." Naruto looked at Iruka to let him know that he was finished, and Iruka was impressed. "Okay, Naruto, please take the available seat in the top corner by those two. Their names are Shikamaru and Choji." Naruto nodded and walked up the steps and shook both of their hands. He then sat down and smiled. He was beginning to think that he was going to make lots of friends here. Naruto walked along the grounds of the academy watching everyone as they ate lunch. He soon spotted Shikamaru and Choji sitting at a table with 3 other guys. He walked over and asked if he could sit with them. Shikamaru told him it was okay and so he sat down. So, I already know about Shikamaru and Choji but I was hoping to learn a little bit more about my classmates. Naruto said watching the other boys curiously. Well, I'll start since no one else seems eager. My name is Inuzuka Kiba and my best friend is my dog Akamaru. My clan specializes in using dogs with their ninjutsu. Kiba said as the next boy went straight into his short speech. My name is Aburame Shino. My clan specializes in using bugs with their ninjutsu and it's nice to meet you. When Shino was done, the third boy spoke up. My name is Uchiha Sasuke. I am the sole survivor of my clan and as you hold the power of a bloodline limit which I hope to have activated soon. My goal is to become powerful enough to kill a certain man. Naruto scowled at the boy's attitude seeing as how he was in the same boat but wasn't power hungry to kill the man. Naruto then stated that it was nice to meet them all and that he looked forward to being their friends but he wanted to go and meet the girls. The guys all groaned but decided that Naruto needed to learn from himself what the girls were like. Naruto noticed a table where 3 girls were sitting and talking to each other and so he walked over. 2 of the girls, a pink-haired one and a blonde-haired one, looked up at him and asked him what he wanted. The other girl who had blue hair and white eyes just looked at the ground and didn't speak. Naruto gave a soft smile and said that he just wanted to get to know the people in the academy and make some friends. The girls eyed each other before inviting him to sit. Naruto waited for them to tell him about themselves. He watched as the blonde decided to start. My name is Yamanaka Ino. I like Sasuke-kun and I love to work with my parents at their flower shop. After the blonde was finished, the pink-haired girl spoke up and said, my name is Haruno Sakura. I also like Sasuke-kun and am Ino's friend and rival in every way. Naruto then looked to the blue-haired girl and waited for her to speak. My name is Hyuga. Hi. Hinata. My family has a bloodline limit like you. Yours. Naruto then smiled and shook their hands and told them that it was nice to meet them and that he looked forward to being their friends as well. The girls watched him walk away and decided that he was a very nice person and that they would look forward to being his friend as well. Before Naruto could go and meet more people, the bell rang and it was time to head back to class. Naruto finished the sandwich Anko had made him and walked back into the building. When they all sat down, Iruka announced that today was a sparring day and that the fighting would begin once they all got to the training grounds. So one by one, everyone stepped outside and the first match was called for. Uchiha Sasuke versus Uzumaki Mitarashi Naruto. Silently both kids walked out to the ring and got into their fighting stances. Naruto nodded to Sasuke and said, don't hold back, because I'm not going to, and I hope that there will be no hard feelings amongst us no matter who wins. To which Sasuke smirked and agreed, feeling fully confident that Naruto wouldn't be able to touch him. As Iruka waved his hand and yelled out to begin, Naruto lowered both his hands and let them dangle by his sides. Sasuke growled and rushed forward and reached out to punch the boy. When Sasuke's fist connected with Naruto, something strange happened. Sasuke let out a surprised cry of pain as a cut appeared on his left arm. Sasuke tried and tried again to hit the boy, but it only resulted in more cuts. Sasuke finally jumped back, panting and cursing under his breath, unable to discover what was going on. The rest of the crowd just stood there in awe. The whole time Naruto had moved to a far corner of the ring, but Sasuke just proceeded to punch and kick at nothing but air. Naruto simply walked up to the boy and began to give small cuts all over Sasuke's body every time he hit the air. Iruka, on the other hand, was standing there with his jaw hanging out. Naruto was performing what looked to be a Chunin-level genjutsu and he wasn't even going to break a sweat, defeating who was looking like he would become the Rookie of the Year. Iruka realized this wouldn't have worked long on most ninjas, but he also realized that he had not yet done a lesson on genjutsu, so Sasuke didn't know what was going on. Sasuke finally had enough and preformed Gukaku no Jutsu, which had enough power to defuse the genjutsu, but it also left Sasuke very drained of chakra and thus very tired. Naruto slid behind Sasuke and held a kunai to his throat, demanding him to surrender. Sasuke whispered out his surrender and Naruto drew back the kunai and walked back to the class as if nothing had happened. Sasuke growled at the fact that he had been humiliated and everyone else just gaped at the level of skill Naruto already had. The rest of the battles ended with Ino defeating Hinata, Shino defeating Choji, Shikamaru defeating Sakura, and Kiba defeating some no-name with no skill. At the end of the day, Anko was waiting for Naruto to come out of the academy, and she watched, one by one, as the students walked out and left until no one came out. Anko got nervous and walked into the academy and walked towards Naruto's classroom to find out where he was and if he was okay. When she stopped at the door, she saw Iruka talking with Naruto and thought he had gotten into trouble. She opened the door and sent Naruto a glare that said if he had gotten into trouble she was going to kill him. Iruka realized the situation and simply explained that Naruto had defeated Sasuke without any effort at all and was amazed at Naruto's skill. Anko stuck out her tongue a little bit and said that she had worked Naruto very hard to get where he was at today. The conversation ended with Iruka telling Anko that she should be proud of Naruto and Anko walking out to head towards home. "How was your meeting with the Hokage and your day today, sis?" Naruto asked, looking up at the older woman. She smiled at him and told him that she was going to be receiving training from a very special man for the next week or so to prepare her to take the exam to become a Chunin. Naruto hugged his sis and exclaimed that she was the coolest and that she could do it no sweat. Anko laughed a carefree laugh she could only let out when around Naruto. She rubbed his head and she declared that the special person was going to be joining them for dinner tonight. Naruto smiled at Anko, and when they arrived at the house he went to the dojo to do his training. Anko smiled at him and went off to the kitchen to prepare a nice dinner. When Naruto opened up the dojo door, he jumped at the sight of Gabriel leaning against the wall. "Hello Naruto-kun, please close the door behind you." Naruto complied and then walked up to Gabriel, looking at him with curious eyes because he hadn't known that Gabriel was going to show up today. "Tell me Naruto-kun, how many tattoos do you have?" Gabriel asked, smiling at the boy. Naruto thought for a moment before answering, 9 tattoos, Gabriel-sensei." Gabriel stopped leaning against the wall and looked straight into Naruto's eyes. "I have brought 2 things for you today, Naruto-kun, and you must take care of these things, for they have been in your family for many years and were always worn by the leader of the clan." Gabriel snapped his fingers and a large golden box appeared at their feet. Gabriel opened up the box and commanded Naruto to turn around. Naruto complied and waited patiently as he heard Gabriel pull something out of the box. Naruto's muscles tensed as he felt Gabriel come up behind him. Gabriel instructed Naruto to take off the weights he was wearing. Naruto did so quietly and almost jumped when Gabriel took his arm and slid it through cloth. Gabriel did the same to his other arm and draped the mysterious cloth over Naruto's shoulders. Naruto could tell that it was a kimono by the length that hit his ankles, but he dared not look until Gabriel told him it was okay. Gabriel then stepped around to face Naruto and silently tied the kimono across Naruto's waist. He then stepped back behind Naruto and picked up the last object and told Naruto to turn, and to go down on one knee. Naruto did as he was told and looked up to see Gabriel holding what appeared to be a golden handle to a sword with no blade. "Uzumaki Naruto, the kimono you are now wearing was made by the angels in heaven for your clan. It never gets dirty, it cannot be destroyed, it is made out of a material softer than any on this planet, and that it had the unique ability to become any weight the user wished it to become just by thinking about it. This sword, I gave to the first leader of your clan, and proceeded to hand it down to every leader since, and today, I hand it to you. Uzumaki Naruto, you are the last of your kind. I pray that you use this weapon to protect those you love and that one day I would have the honor to pass down this kimono and sword down to your children when you leave this world." Gabriel then proceeded to offer Naruto the sword with no blade. Naruto gently reached out and grasped the handle of the sword and found it to be surprisingly light. "Gabriel-sensei, forgive me for asking, but what use is a sword with no blade?" Naruto asked, looking confusedly into Gabriel's eyes. Gabriel told him to rise to his feet and Naruto did so. "Naruto-kun, I want you to think about fire. I want you to think as hard as you can about fire. Imagine fire burning deep inside of you." Naruto scowled but did as he was told and almost dropped the handle as a blade of fire erupted from it. Naruto lifted the sword up in awe and watched the fire burn. "This is my blade of fire, Naruto. Use it to protect those you love. Your kimono is pure white with golden feathers on it. There is only one more step for you, Naruto-kun. When you receive your 10th and final tattoo, your wings will turn gold and will be stronger than steel. Now go, Naruto, and remember I along with all my friends are only a prayer away, and also, to deactivate the fire, just think about extinguishing it in your mind." With that, Naruto practiced activating and deactivating his sword before running out to show Anko. When he got into the kitchen, Anko turned and looked at him with wide eyes. Naruto explained all that had happened between himself and Gabriel today. He had told her about Gabriel a long time ago, and that he was now officially a warrior ninja for his clan. Anko hugged Naruto and saw the sword in his hands and blinked. Naruto looked down at the sword and grinned at Anko before saying, "Watch this, sis." Naruto thought about fire and heard Anko let out a small gasp as the blade of fire burst into life. As Anko finished preparing dinner, Naruto explained all the things that made the kimono special. Anko listened happily as her little brother explained all about it and was slightly startled when she heard a knock at the door. She looked up at the clock and her eyes widened when she thought, "Oh my god, he's early, Guess who?" He. Anko asked Naruto to answer the door for her and told him that it was their guest and to be respectful. Naruto opened up the door and saw a man with silver hair, an Anbu mask covering his mouth and nose, and saw that his headband covered one eye. The man looked down at Naruto and said, I'm looking for Mitarashi Anko's home. Do I have the wrong address?" Naruto smiled at the man and said, "Nope, I'm Uzumaki Mitarashi Naruto. Anko is my big sister." The man looked at the boy and the Kyuubi container, interesting, and what's with the kimono and the bladeless sword? Naruto smiled at the man and showed him into the living room where he told the man to sit. "So what's your name?" Naruto asked, wanting to know more about the man that was going to be teaching his sister. "My name is Hitaki Kakashi, and I'm going to be the one training your sister to become a strong Chunin." Naruto eyed the man wearily before smiling again, deciding that he liked the man in front of him. Anko then stepped into the room and bowed to Kakashi slightly and blushed a bit as she told them that dinner was ready. Kakashi thought that Anko wasn't going to be blushing at him after he was done training her, and so, all three of them walked to the dinner table. When they all sat down, Naruto asked if he could pray. Hitaki looked slightly surprised that a ninja trainee would believe in God, and Anko smiled and told him that it was fine. Naruto said his prayer and then Anko and Kakashi said, "Amen," to be respectful. Kakashi quietly removed his mask and noticed that Naruto and Anko were staring at him. "Is something on my face?" Kakashi asked while watching the two curiously. Naruto was thinking that Kakashi was a good-looking guy and didn't understand why he covered his face with a mask. Anko was thinking more along the lines of how gorgeous the man in front of her was. The two quickly shook their heads and proceeded to go about eating the nice dinner of fish, rice, and corn. After dinner, Anko told Naruto that he was free to go do whatever he wanted so that she could talk to Kakashi about their training. Naruto declared that he was going out to the library and Anko called out for him to be home by 9 p.m. Naruto walked out of the house and found a place on the kimono where his sword was meant to be placed. He clasped the handle into the clip on the side of the kimono's belt on his left side and he walked down the street towards the library. He noticed the cold glares that villagers were giving him, but he just shrugged it off and continued along the path towards the library. When he passed by the bar, he heard a slurred voice command for him to stop. He just kept walking but was stopped when the source of the voice appeared in front of him. "Hey you little demon, I was talking to you. You should show respect to your elders." Naruto held down a growl and told that man that he was drunk and that he should go sleep it off so that he would feel better. Naruto meant no ill feeling towards the man from the comment, but the drunken man took it as an insult and drove his fist forward to punch the boy. Naruto caught the man's fist in his hand and held it tightly. The man continued to struggle and brought his other hand into a fist and tried to punch Naruto in the kidney. Naruto reached out with his other hand and caught the punch, grasping the man's other fist as well. "Please sir, I don't want to fight you. I'm just trying to go to the library." Naruto cried out in despair, hoping that someone would come and take the man away, but he just saw that the villagers were just going to stand there and watch him. Naruto knew that he could hurt the man because it would be wrong. Naruto let the man's hands go and let the man beat him up. By the time it was over, Naruto got to his feet a bloody mess and watched the man walk away satisfied. The others murmured how the demon didn't even try to fight back and began to wonder if this boy was even a demon at all. Naruto decided that he couldn't go to the library looking like this, so he limped back to his home. When he stepped into the house, Anko gasped and ran to him and Kakashi just looked at the boy wondering what happened. He stood to his feet and walked up to them. "It's okay sis, the man was drunk and it wouldn't have been right to hurt him in his state. and no one else wanted to stop him, so I let him hit me until he was satisfied. Anko grasped the boy and hugged him tightly, telling him he was stupid for showing such compassion to such close-minded people. Does this happen often? Kakashi asked, and Anko replied that it happened every once in a while but not often. Kakashi's only visible eyes showed deep sadness at the thought of this young man being beaten this bad at an earlier age. Naruto excused himself to his room and Anko watched him go worriedly. Kakashi walked up to Anko and whispered, "Does he know about the Kyuubi yet?" She looked at him and nodded, telling him that she told him on his 11th birthday when a village threw a bottle which cut his head when it hit. Naruto asked why the wound healed so quickly, and I decided that it was time he knew. Kakashi asked how he reacted and Anko explained that he cried for a while, but realized that he held the burden in order to protect the village and he did so with honor. Kakashi then told Anko to go and check on him and that training would begin tomorrow at 7 o'clock sharp and that she shouldn't be late. Kakashi then excused himself and Anko locked the door behind him before heading to Naruto's room. When she opened the door, she gasped as she watched golden feathers floating everywhere in the room. She looked to Naruto and saw that his wings had turned a shining gold instead of being white. She looked at his back and saw a 10th tattoo on his back, and she knew that the process was complete. She walked through the feathers to Naruto and hugged him gently. Naruto hugged her back and told her that his compassion for that man activated the last tattoo. She nodded quietly and they just sat there hugging each other until they both fell asleep. Anko woke up and looked at the clock, seeing that it was 6:30 a.m. She kissed Naruto's forehead before placing him gently in his bed and setting his alarm for 8 o'clock a.m. so he could get up like he normally did. She then went to her room to take a quick shower and got dressed. She left the home and arrived at the training site with 2 minutes to spare. Needless to say, she ended up waiting for 2 hours before he finally arrived. About 4 months later, Anko had been promoted by unanimous decision to become a Chunin of the Leaf. On this very day, Anko was to begin her duties as a Chunin and Naruto was going to take the genin test. Anko walked Naruto to school and gave him a kiss on his forehead before wishing him luck and disappearing in a whirlwind of leaves. Naruto entered the classroom full of confidence and sat down with his friends. One by one the students were called into the back room and one by one they left. Finally, at the end of the list, Naruto was called in. He smiled at Iruka before bowing. Iruka nodded his head and told Naruto that his task was to create 3 shadow clones. Naruto performed the technique and was given his headband. He tied it to his forehead and stepped back out into the main classroom. All of his friends except for Sasuke and Shino cheered for Naruto when he emerged as the last student to become a ninja of the leaf. The students were then told that there was a tie amongst who would become Rookie of the Year. Naruto waved his hand and simply stated that it was nothing more than a title and that he didn't want it. Sasuke grunted in agreement and the spot was given to Shino, who didn't care one way or another. The teams were then announced and Naruto was placed with Kiba, who was a mid-range student, and Hinata, who had the lowest range in the class. They were placed in a room and waited for their teacher. Naruto looked at the clock and noticed that an hour had already passed. Naruto bit his lip as he began to suspect that he knew who his teacher was. Kiba looked over at Naruto and asked if Naruto knew something. Naruto simply said, "He'll be here in 3, 2, 1, and with that none other than Kakashi stepped into the room. He simply said to meet him on the roof and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto and Kiba grumbled about their tardy sensei and Hinata simply giggled, having long since lost her shyness around the boys. And so, they all picked themselves up and made their way to the roof. When they got to the top, they saw Kakashi waiting for them and they all sat down quietly and waited for him to speak. "Well, let's get to know each other, shall we? Tell us your name, your likes, dislikes, dreams, and such. I'll go first. My name is Hitaki Kakashi. My dreams are none of your concern and I like a lot of things. There isn't much that I don't like." The 3 new genin looked at each other and thought, he said a lot, but all we learned about him was his name. Kakashi then pointed to Naruto and told him to go first. "My name is Uzumaki Midarashi Naruto. I like ramen, training, and making friends. There isn't much that I dislike, but I do have a big dream, and that is to become stronger than my hero, the 4th Hokage, and become Hokage so that I can protect the village that I love." Kakashi smiled at the boy, finding him quite interesting. He then pointed at Hinata, who was petting Akamaru, and she said, "My name is Hyuga Hinata. I like water, training, and people with good hearts, like Naruto-kun. I don't dislike much, however I also have a big dream, and that is to make my father proud and become a strong person so that I can become the leader of the Hyuga clan. Kakashi smiled again and knew that being around a friend like Naruto had really rubbed off on her. He then pointed to the other boy and he spoke. My name is Inuzuka Kiba. I like my friends and my companions. I dislike arrogant people and my dream is to become the leader of my clan as well. Well then, tomorrow we are going to have a little survival training against me. A test of your skills if you will. We will meet tomorrow at the bridge. Apparently everyone in Konoha knows about the bridge. At 7 a.m. And by the way, don't eat or you will throw up. And finally, this test has a 66% rate of failure, so you had better be at your best tomorrow. With that, Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke and the team decided to go to the Ichiraku ramen stand for lunch. Ayame and Naruto had become close friends since that day they had met 6 years ago, and Ayame had a big smile upon her face when she saw the headband on Naruto's forehead. She rushed out from behind the counter, hugged him, squealing that he did it, he had become a ninja. He hugged her back and blushed when she placed a kiss on his cheek and told him it was his reward for all his hard work. Kiba and Hinata laughed at Naruto's embarrassment as they all sat down and ate. When Naruto left the ramen stand, he went back to his home and went into his bedroom. He pulled out a box which contained scrolls of various shapes and sizes. He pulled one out and began to work on a new jutsu that he had come up with. He got so involved with his work that he did not notice when Enko came into his room and walked up to his bed. She wrapped her arms around him and felt him go rigid. She smirked and said, "How did you become a genin when you don't even realize when someone has come into your room?" Her smirk dropped into a smile when she felt Naruto tap his pencil on her side right where her kidney was. "That's my brother," she smiled as she pulled him into a bigger hug out of congratulations. Naruto smiled at Anko and decided that life truly was good. Little did he know what was in store for him tomorrow. Naruto woke up bright and early and hopped into the shower. He chose to take a cold shower to wake himself up, and when he was done he used a small fire jutsu to dry himself off without the use of a towel. He put on a pair of hazy gray shorts and put on one of his fishnet undershirts. He then quietly wrapped the pure white and golden kimono around his body, tying it down firmly. He picked up his headband and looked at it before getting an idea. He closed his eyes and called out to Gabriel. He felt a presence fill the room, but when he opened his eyes he saw an angel that looked nothing like Gabriel. "Who are you?" Naruto asked in a confused voice as the angel bowed to him. "My name is Tobias. I am second in command to Gabriel and I'm your guardian angel. All that simply means is that in your times of great need, I will be the first to aid you, for it is my job to constantly watch you." Naruto gave a respect bow to the angel and asked him a simple question. "Do you think that I could get some of the material that made my kimono to create my headband with?" The angel named Tobias smiled before reaching into his kimono's pocket and pulling out a medium-sized piece of the cloth, handing it to him. Naruto just stood there, mouth open, amazed that Tobias just happened to have the right piece of cloth on him at the time. "It was no problem at all, Naruto-sama. I am here to help you, and as such I know your every want and need. Now I will take my leave, Naruto-sama, but don't ever lose heart. I'm always watching out for you." And with that the angel disappeared. Naruto grinned, deciding that he liked his guardian angel, although he felt uncomfortable with the title Naruto-sama, but he would deal with that later. For now he attached the metal plate with Konoha's symbol on it to the white cloth and placed it around his forehead. He then ran to the kitchen and had some cereal when his eyes came upon a note on the table. He picked it up and saw that it said, "Dearest Naruto, if you pass Kakashi-sensei's test, then I'll teach you something very special tonight. Your big sister, Anko." Naruto smiled big and then put the cereal and milk away before grabbing his kunai pouch and strapping it to his belt on the right side and his sword in the left clip, walking out the door and making sure to lock it up. As he walked down the street he decided to add 15 pounds to his kimono, putting it at the weight of 115 pounds, which was already much more than he weighed. He wanted to groan as he had to force his feet into steps to keep them from dragging. He hated the weight, but he knew that it was making him stronger and faster. And so he arrived at the bridge a half hour early, only to find Kiba and Hinata already there, and it appeared that they were far too close for normal contact. Naruto immediately hid his Charka presence and dove into the bushes to watch them. He saw Kiba whisper something to Hinata which made her blush, and then he gently took her chin in his hand and kissed her. It took Hinata a moment, but she slowly closed her eyes and began to kiss back. Naruto turned away knowing that they deserved their private time on, so he sat there and pulled the scroll he had been working on out of his pocket along with his pencil and began to work some more. Naruto soon decided that he had waited long enough, and so he crawled out of the bushes and brushed himself up before walking up on the bridge. He smiled at Kiba and Hinata, who were holding onto each other, and Kiba just smiled back. Naruto had known since they had met that Kiba had a crush on Hinata, and he was glad that both of his friends were in love with each other. And so he sat down next to them, not needing to say a word. And so, Hinata and Kiba fell asleep in each other's arms, and Naruto continued to work on his scroll until Kakashi showed up an hour later. Kakashi gave a "yo," and Naruto nudged Kiba, who gently woke up Hinata. "You're late, sensei. Tardiness is not a good virtue," Naruto said simply as he struggled to get back up on his feet. Kakashi noticed this but chose to keep it to himself. He also chose to let Naruto's comment slide by giving the excuse that he got lost on the road of life. Naruto and Kiba simply rolled their eyes and Hinata giggled. As Kiba and Hinata stood to their feet, their stomachs growled, showing that they were already hungry. When Kakashi looked at Naruto, he could see in his eyes that Naruto defied his orders and ate breakfast. Without a word, Kakashi rushed the genin and gave him a powerful punch to the stomach, which put Naruto on his knees, throwing his breakfast up on the bridge's surface. "Not listening to your superior's orders is not a good virtue, Naruto. You must learn respect for me if we are to work on the same team, and that means following my orders even if you don't understand them," Kakashi said, simply waiting for the blonde to get back onto his feet, which he did shakily. "Now then, with that aside, today's mission is quite a simple one. All three of you have until noon to each land one solid hit on me, and blocked hits don't count. It has to be full contact, and I would suggest that you aim to kill if you even want to come close. It is now 9 a.m. You have 3 hours to each land a hit on me. If you do not manage to land a hit on me, then you will go without lunch and you will be sent back to the academy in disgrace. Ready? 3, 2, 1, begin!" Kakashi shouted out, and all three genin leapt away to find a good hiding spot. Kakashi scanned the area with his eyes and discovered to his satisfaction that all three genin were very well hidden. Now it was only a matter of one of them gaining the courage to attack. Suddenly, Naruto leapt down from a tree and unsheathed his sword. Kakashi's visible eye widened some with amusement as he said in a sing-song voice, "A sword without a blade is almost as useless as you are, Naruto-kun." Naruto let out a low grumble and let the fire burn inside of him as the sword's blade of fire burst to life. Kakashi's eye now widened in a show of shock when he felt the killer intent radiating from Naruto. "Don't call me useless," Naruto let out in a soft voice as he rushed towards Kakashi, grasping the sword's handle with both hands and swinging it like a heavy blade. Kakashi simply dodged the attacks with the greatest of ease and said, "The fire blade makes no difference, Naruto-kun. It's too heavy, and yet again, the sword continues to prove its uselessness, the same as you." Kakashi knew it seemed cruel to say these words to the boy, but he was trying to make the boy angry enough to show him his secret bloodline limit, which he knew nothing about. Naruto let out another angry roar as he sliced at Kakashi's head. Kakashi simply ducked to avoid the hit, but his eyes widened in shock as Naruto turned the blade with one hand and brought it sweeping back, cutting through him completely. Naruto was shocked that he had hit his teacher so easily, but was even more surprised when his sensei disappeared in a puff of smoke. He began to look around frantically in every direction, trying to find his sensei, when a thought hit him. Below was the only thing he could get out before a hand burst from the ground and dragged him down to his neck in the soil. "It was a nice trick, Naruto, trying to make the blade seem heavier than it was to catch me off guard, but your sword handling skills are poor and in serious need of work. However, I am impressed that you managed to destroy my clone. However, you had better figure out how to get out of the ground if you want another chance to hit me." With that being said, Kakashi pulled out an orange book and walked away, leaving a muttering Naruto to his own devices. When Hinata was sure that Kakashi was gone, she rushed out to Naruto and offered to help him out of the hole. Naruto accepted and simply stated, "He thinks he's so smart and so good. Little did he know I was weighed down, but next time I will get a good hit on him." With that being said, Naruto picked up his sword and placed it on its clip before looking at a very worried Hinata. "Naruto, I am going to need your help if I'm going to hit him. I have nowhere near your skill and I can't hit him on my own. Will you help me?" Naruto thought for a moment before saying, "We need to find Kiba now. Follow me. With that, Naruto entered the bushes with Hinata close on his trail trying to find their other teammate. Unfortunately for them, Kiba and already rushed out and challenged Kakashi to a great battle. Ugh, only the weak speak loudly, must you be so loud, Kiba? Kakashi asked lazily as he continued to read the little orange book in his right hand. Kiba and Akamaru both let out a low growl as they charged at Kakashi. Kakashi just continued to chuckle at his little book as he used one hand to dodge all of Kiba's and Akamaru's attacks. When Kakashi had had enough, he put his hands in the sign of the tiger and screamed out, Konoha's most sacred technique. The 1,000 years of pain. And with that, Kakashi stuck his fingers up Kiba's butt and launched him into the air. Akamaru whimpered and ran up to his master. Kakashi began to walk towards his student, but his eye widened in surprise as Kunai came out of nowhere and stabbed Kiba right in his leg. Kiba let out a scream of pain and Kakashi looked up to see what appeared to be a grass ninja sitting in the tree twirling another kunai with his right index finger. Kakashi stooped and realized that something wasn't right. He looked at Kiba and immediately noticed that Akamaru was nowhere to be seen. His eye drooped again as he yelled out, "Release!" which dispelled the genjutsu only to find that Kiba and Akamaru were gone. Kakashi smiled under his mask and thought, Naruto, what a guy. Kiba was pissed, and he was letting Hinata and Naruto know it. Hinata chose to defuse the situation by giving Kiba a small kiss on the lips which immediately calmed him down. Alright, listen up, Hinata brought this to my attention, alone, none of us have the skill to hit him. However, if they all worked together, they could get him by surprise. Naruto then brought out a scroll he had copied from the library and showed them how to burrow underground using their charka. He explained that their plan was for the two of them to keep underground and get right below Kakashi, then Naruto would take off his weights and keep Kakashi busy by surprising him with a speedy attack. The two were to wait for an opening in Kakashi's defenses which would be seen by Hinata's eyes, and then they would burst from the ground. They would all then use the element of surprise to each land a hit on him at the same time. Kiba and Hinata agreed and began the jutsu which burrowed them under the ground. Naruto then jumped out from their hiding spot and dispelled the weights on his kimono. Get ready to lose, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi was about to respond, but could only widen his eye as Naruto rushed him with a speed that Kakashi was certain that he didn't have before. Naruto began his attack right as Hinata and Kiba got into position. Hinata activated her Byakugan and watched for a lapse in Kakashi's defense. And so as the fight raged on, Kakashi let one hand slide down a little which left his upper body vulnerable. Hinata yelled out, "Now!" and Kakashi looked at the ground shocked as Hinata and Kiba burst from the ground. Hinata aimed for Kakashi's stomach, Kiba aimed for Kakashi's chest, and Naruto aimed for Kakashi's chin. All three fists connect at once and sent the Chunin flying towards a tree. Kakashi did a flip in the air and pumped charka into his feet which made him stick to the tree. Kakashi smiled at the three exhausted genin in front of him and said with a happy voice, "You all pass. Not only did you realize that the point of the exercise was teamwork, but you also came up with and executed a surprise attack that even caught me off guard. In celebration, I am going to take you all to the Ichiraku ramen stand for lunch, but before that, there is something important I have to tell you about being a ninja. Those who abandon their missions are trash, but those who abandon their teammates are lower than trash. I hope that none of you ever forget that lesson." The three looked at him and nodded in respect before heading out to the Ichiraku ramen stand. When they arrived, Ayame ran up to Naruto and gave her usual greeting, now of a kiss on the cheek. Naruto blushed and said, "Good afternoon, Ayame-kun." She then gave him another quick hug before running back behind the counter and taking their orders. Kakashi glanced at the girl and knew that she had a crush on the young blonde. He smiled at Naruto, and knew that it didn't go unnoticed by the boy. When Ayame walked away, Naruto turned to the Kakashi and asked, "What are you smiling at me for, Kakashi-sensei?" Kakashi just simply smiled and said something along the lines of him being dense. Kiba let out a hearty laugh with Akamaru and Hinata giggled in agreement. Naruto scowled because he didn't get what they meant, and so they ate their food in a comfortable silence. When they were done, Kakashi told them that they were to meet at the bridge for their first official mission as genins of the leaf. And with that, Kakashi paid the bill and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Soon after Kakashi left, Kiba and Hinata excused themselves to go for a walk, leaving Naruto and Ayame alone in the restaurant. "Where's your father, Ayame-chan?" Naruto asked curiously, noticing that the old man was nowhere to be seen. "Oh, Papa's at home sick, so I'm running the store for him today," Ayame said to Naruto, giving him a sweet smile which soon faded when she looked outside. Naruto turned and followed her gaze to see the rest of the genins walking with their senseis towards the ramen stand. That counted 8 people to serve and only one Ayame. She groaned, knowing that this was going to be a long day, when she turned her head only to watch Naruto jump over the counter. "Naruto-kun, what are you doing?" she asked as she watched him grab a spare apron and a paper hat and put it on his head. "You are going to need help with all these hungry people, and I can't just leave a friend all alone," Naruto said with a genuine smile. Ayame blushed and whispered out a thanks to him as they prepared for the small rush of new ninjas. They all came in and Ayame took their orders. She then yelled out, "Naruto-kun, 3 orders of miso, 2 orders of chicken, and 3 orders of pork." Naruto shouted back that he was on it, and Ayame smiled at them before preparing their drinks. Everyone looked at each other, puzzled upon hearing Naruto's voice in the back. When Naruto was finished, he brought out the ramen and gave out the orders with a smile until Sasuke snorted and asked, "What's wrong, Dobi? Couldn't hack it as a ninja, so you became a ramen chef?" Naruto just simply smiled at Sasuke and said, "Only the weak speak out so loudly, Sasuke. Must you speak so loud?" Sasuke shut his mouth quickly and everyone laughed, even Ayame, who was giggling. When everyone was done, they paid their tabs and left Ayame and Naruto alone again. They both worked quickly to pick up the dishes and went into the back to clean them. About halfway through the dishwashing, Ayame slipped on some water and let out a surprised yelp. Naruto rushed forward and caught Ayame, only to slip on the water himself and land on his back with Ayame on top of him. Naruto looked up into Ayame's eyes and suddenly felt a feeling tugging at his heart. He blushed and Ayame looked down to see the position they were in. She blushed as well and picked herself up, and Naruto did the same. They quietly went back to washing the dishes until they were done. Ayame thanked Naruto for his help, and Naruto surprised her by leaning forward and planting a kiss on Ayame's cheek before telling her that it was his pleasure, before running off back towards his home. Boy, did he have some questions for his sister. When Naruto got home, his head was swimming. He let his mind wander back to when Ayame fell on top of him. He just didn't understand what he was feeling. Was there something wrong with him? He sighed as he walked up the steps and went into his room. He sat on his bed and considered going to Anko, but then he stopped to think. Ever since she had become a Chunin, she had let her unique side come out, and she was a little bit weird. The thought made him momentarily forget about his problems as he smiled, remembering all the memories he had with Anko. He let his mind wander to his 12th birthday. He was walking back home when he suddenly felt the presence of people following him. He knew that he was in danger because the villagers became the most vicious on this day towards him, because it was also the anniversary of the demon's attack. He tried to pick up his pace but was blocked when a new group of people came out of the alley and blocked the path. He spun around but saw that he had been surrounded. He looked up to the roofs for a safe place to jump, but saw that some hateful ninjas were prowling along the roofs, daring him to jump up. Naruto could feel himself getting nervous and got ready to unleash his wings. It was then that he felt a presence jumping at him. He got into a defensive stance but gasped when he saw Anko land in front of him with a kunai in each hand. "Anyone who wants to touch him is going to have to try to get through me," Anko said in a low growl that dared the people to even try and attack. The villagers screamed out that she had been brainwashed by the demon but still weren't willing to try and fight her. And so they all grumbled and walked away. After that, Anko walked Naruto home and held a small party for him, just between the two of them. Naruto's thoughts were cut short when he felt cold metal press itself against his throat. Naruto closed his eyes and cursed the fact that he let his guard down in his mind. "Come now, little brother, you disappoint me with your lack of attention. Now I know something's on your mind, so don't try to get out of it. Tell me what's up," Anko said as she pulled her knife away from his neck and put it back in her pouch. She sat next to him and patiently waited for him to begin. "Big sis, I have a problem and I'm not sure exactly what it is or what I am supposed to do about it. You see, there's this girl I see every day, but every time I'm around her and we get close to each other, I feel my heartbeat quicken and I feel this tugging in my heart. I get nervous and I am starting to think that there is something wrong with me." Naruto finished and looked at his sister with wide eyes, who was trying to hide her giggling with her mouth, which only made her giggle worse. "What's so funny, sis? I don't understand. Is there something wrong with me?" Naruto let this out a little louder than he had intended to, and it made Anko stop giggling right away. Anko let out a little cough trying to find the right words to say. First of all, there is nothing wrong with you. Every boy your age begins to get these feelings and it's completely normal. I guess before I try to explain the more complicated things I should first tell you what is going on with your body. Anko took a deep breath and cursed Iruka in her mind for not teaching the kids about these things in the academy. Anko took another deep breath and thought that telling this kid about growing up was harder than any mission she had ever done. She once again cursed Iruka in her mind before going on with the talk. Okay Naruto, your body is beginning to go through a stage called puberty. In this stage in your life your body will begin to undergo some drastic changes. Perhaps the most important, your body is going to begin to grow, you are going to get taller, and your body is going to conform itself to what it's going to look like until you get old and die. You are also going to begin to grow hair all over your body, especially on your chest and under your arms. Your voice is going to go through an awkward stage that will make your voice swing drastically from going very high-pitched to going to a very low-pitched. When this is over your voice will be deeper and it will be the voice that you have for the rest of your life. With this being said, she bit her bottom lip hard, feeling surprisingly uncomfortable with the things she was about to talk about. Okay Naruto, what I am going to tell you next will seem embarrassing, but it is a very important thing for you to know. Anko then leaned into Naruto's ear and began to explain what his manhood was and what it did and what it would do during the stages of puberty. When she pulled back, Naruto had a shocked look on his face and Anko was feeling very uncomfortable but knew that the next part would be the hardest but that it would all go downhill from there. And so, she took another deep breath and chose her words to explain to her young brother. First of all Naruto, you need to know that what I am about to explain to you should only be put into practice when you find someone you want to spend the rest of your life with. What I am about to tell you will explain how babies are brought into the world. It all begins when a man and a woman fall in love and decide that they want to have children. All those things I told you about your manhood come into play with. The man inserts his manhood into the woman and will eventually have what is known as an orgasm. During this process the man will spray out sperm which will attach itself to the woman's version of sperm, which is eggs. When these two connect together they form an embryo which will grow into a child in 9 months and will be born into the world. Anko was fighting as hard as she could not to blush as she asked Naruto if he understood everything she had told him. Naruto slowly nodded his head and Anko hugged him gently. Now that the tough stuff is over and done with, I will tell you what you are feeling for this specific girl. I believe that you have a crush on this girl. Crushes are usually the starting stages of the process of love. Now don't get me wrong, not every girl you may have a crush on will form into love. Love is special and the girl has to have a crush on you back. However, crushes usually go on dates and that's how they begin to grow closer. Eventually, if you stay with your crush long enough, you will begin to realize that you're in love and love usually leads to the couple getting married. But you're far from that stage and you don't need to be thinking about that far ahead. However, if you're feeling a crush on a girl and you think that the girl has a crush on you back, then you should ask her out. Now come on, let's go get some dinner, okay? Anko asked, hoping she had taken care of the boy's curiosity. Much to Anko's relief, Naruto nodded his head and they went to eat. Dinner went normally and Naruto surprised Anko by giving her a hug before running off to his room. Anko smiled at the boy's antics and looked over to the calendar on the wall, realizing that his birthday was exactly a week from this day. Anko grinned and began to plot a party in her mind. Naruto, on the other hand, was too busy thinking about a certain girl while lying on his bed to even bother thinking about his birthday. He smiled as he thought about taking his sister's advice and asking her on a date. With the thought in his mind, he closed his eyes and fell into slumber. Anko walked by and saw that Naruto had fallen asleep with his clothes on, lights on, and without setting his alarm clock. Anko gave a small smile as she walked into the room and removed Naruto's kimono. She hung it over his chair and gently removed Naruto's headband and placed it with his kimono. She did the same with his sandals and decided that was enough. She turned on his alarm clock and gave him a kiss on the forehead and walking out, turning the light out as she went towards her room. The week went by surprisingly fast. Naruto and his cell completed more D-ranked missions around the town and Anko was gone on an S-ranked mission by the Hokage. The day before his birthday, Naruto received news from the Hokage that Anko wouldn't be able to make it home in time for his birthday. Naruto acted like he took the news well, but he was completely devastated that Anko wasn't going to be around. And so, Naruto decided to go to the Ichiraku ramen stand for dinner. Ayame came up and gave Naruto another hug and kiss on the cheek which caused him to blush slightly. "Hey, Ayame-chan," Naruto said without much energy as he sat down on his stool. The tone of Naruto's voice didn't go unheard and Ayame was sitting next to Naruto asking him what was wrong. "Well, it's kinda silly, it's just, my sis is on S-rank mission and she isn't going to be home for my birthday and this will be the first one since we met all those years ago." Truly Naruto was sad but he held back his tears and tried to act like he was strong. Ayame reached out and gently hugged Naruto before leaning towards his ear and whispering to him, "I will see if daddy will let me hold your birthday party at my house." Naruto smiled at the girl and watched her skip away to go prepare him his favorite miso ramen and ask her father. When she brought the ramen back out to him she winked and told him to be at her house at 3 p.m. and not to be late. She then winked and went back into the back to prepare more ramen to help satisfy Naruto's hunger. When Naruto was finished he put his money on the table and called out to Ayame. Hearing his voice, Ayame came out and asked, "What's up Naruto-kun?" Naruto looked at her and felt himself begin to panic. He had planned to ask her out after the birthday party but now fear was starting to set in and before he knew it, words were coming out of his mouth. "I just wanted to say thanks for deciding to throw me a last-minute party and that he truly was thankful." Naruto then looked at the ground ashamed of himself and left the stand leaving a confused Ayame behind, for truly she thought that maybe, just maybe, the boy she had a crush on was going to ask her out, but it seemed that it wasn't meant to be, and so she sighed and went back to work. When Naruto stepped inside of his house he closed the door and banged the back of his head against it hard. "Stupid Naruto, really stupid." Naruto then sighed and decided to go take a shower and call it a day. He didn't really have that much else to do anyways. The day of the party Naruto woke up at 9 in the morning and decided to train in the dojo a little bit. He yawned as he picked up his scrolls and decided to work on some of the jutsus he had created. Now amongst the ninja who knew him, Naruto had a special talent for coming up with very useful jutsus. Naruto wanted to make sure to get them all down on scrolls so that he could teach them to someone else someday. And so, Naruto went to work on practicing some of his own techniques before deciding to end his training at 12 p.m. He went back to his home and took a shower. When he got out of the shower, he was using a towel to dry his hair and walked into his room butt naked only to find Gabriel, Tobias, and another angel he had never seen before who just happened to be a female. Naruto quickly placed the towel where it would cover his manhood, and it made all of the angels laugh which only caused Naruto to blush more. "You humans truly are fickle creatures. We are angels Naruto-kun. We see your soul, not your body," Gabriel said with a grin on his face. Naruto just simply nodded in understanding, but he sure as heck wasn't going to leave his manhood hanging out in the presence of a woman, even if it was an angel. Naruto quickly got into his clothes and put his kimono on over top of it before looking to the angels and speaking again. "So, first of all, to what do I owe this pleasure Gabriel and Tobias, and second of all, who is your lady friend?" Naruto sat on the edge of his bed and began to put on his sandals until Gabriel reached out a hand and stopped him. "Well Naruto-kun, first of all I would like to introduce you to Alice. She is Tobias's right-hand lady as it were. Second, we are all here in celebration of your 13th birthday party and we come bearing gifts." With that being said, Tobias stepped forward and got to one knee holding out a scroll. "To you Naruto-sama, I present this summoning scroll for phoenixes. All you have to do is bite down on your thumb and run your blood across the scroll. When this is finished I will show you how to summon in the dojo, but for now, let's finish up giving out the gifts." With that being said, Tobias placed the scroll next to an awestruck Naruto and stepped back allowing Alice to step in. "To you Naruto-sama, I present this flute. Its power is great indeed, for when you play this flute you shall be able to summon down fire from the heavens to smite your enemies. Be warned though, you can only use this ability once a day and it shall only activate its power when you infuse it with charka. Other than that, you can play it just like any normal flute, so I suggest that you find someone who can teach you how to play." With that, Alice stepped back and Gabriel stepped forward. "To you Naruto-kun, I present to you these white boots with a golden outline, lightweight and impenetrable. These boots not only go with your kimono, but they also have the special ability to store charka, and with the large amount of charka you possess, you will be able to walk up trees or walk across water without having to waste extra charka in dangerous situations. Also, due to the charka storage, you can fall from large heights and land on your feet without doing damage to your body. But perhaps my favorite feature, You can use the chakra you will store into the boots to do a charka jump, which will allow you to jump to heights unreachable with charka infusion. With that being said, Gabriel placed the boots in Naruto's feet and stepped back. They watched with happy faces as Naruto let tears of joy fall down his cheeks. Never in his life had someone given him a birthday present besides Anko, and today he had already received 3. Naruto ran to the angels and hugged them all in a big group hug. When they were finished with the embrace, Alice showed Naruto how to attach the flute to his kimono. Naruto then put on the boots from Gabriel, which were very comfortable, and after that Naruto bit his thumb and ran his thumb across the scroll. When he was finished, the scroll disappeared and Naruto was led by Tobias to the dojo where he learned how to summon a phoenix. When Naruto correctly performed the hand seals, he slammed his palms into the ground and screamed out, "Summon!" When the smoke cleared, a medium-sized, was so big that it reached the top of the dojo at full height. Multicolored phoenix appeared. Naruto stared in awe at the majestic bird before flinching when the bird asked, "Who dared to summon me?" "Saisei, son of the king Fukatsu, ruler of all phoenixes." Naruto gulped before gaining the courage to speak. "I summoned you here, great Saisei. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and I am the sole surviving heir to the Uzumaki bloodline." The phoenix looked down upon the boy and found that he liked the boy. "Very well, child, you have found favor in my eyes. The phoenixes shall always be your ally." And with that the great bird disappeared in a bright flash of light. After it was done, Naruto realized that it was time to head over to Ayame's house, and so Gabriel, Tobias, and Alice wished Naruto a happy birthday and ascended back to the heavens. With that, Naruto ran out the door, already pumping chakra into his new boots as he ran. Naruto managed to arrive at Ayame's house with just a few minuets to spare, and so he calmly walked up to the front door. Naruto saw a note on the door and saw that it told him to enter the house. Naruto opened the door and stepped inside only to find no one there. Naruto furrowed his brow in confusion before walking into the kitchen and finding another note that told him to make his way out back. Naruto found the door and opened it to a sight that took his breath away. Outside were Ayame and her father, along with his sensei, his teammates, the others of the Rookie 9, but most importantly of all, was a smiling Anko. Naruto just stood there with wide eyes in shock as he heard them all yell out, "Happy 13th birthday, Naruto." Anko ran up to Naruto and gave him a hug, whispering to him that she fooled him, but she wanted the party to be a complete surprise. Naruto took a moment to get over his shock, but then felt tears of happiness form in his eyes. He turned away and wiped his eyes, trying to look tough. "What's the matter, Naruto? How come you're crying like a baby?" Sasuke taunted, just wanting to get his rival upset. "It's okay to cry when you're happy, Sasuke. You should try it sometime," Naruto said, whipping his eyes, which caused Sasuke's smirk to disappear. The party then went on like a normal party. Everyone was laughing and enjoying themselves. And eventually cake was served and everyone got ready to give Naruto their presents. The present giving went something like this. Anko, a pet snake. Who would have guessed that? Hinata, a picture of their team wearing their headband protectors like Kakashi, and Kakashi giving the peace sign with one hand while messing up Naruto's hair with the other. Kiba, a pair of sword user's gloves, white with gold outlining to match his outfit, of course. Kakashi, the newest issue of Come Come Paradise. After getting beaten up by Anko, Kakashi just decided to be an Indian giver and take it for himself. The rest of the Rookie 9 all pitched in to buy him a large set of scrolls so he could create new jutsus. When everyone was done, as the party commenced again, Sasuke stood up and made an announcement. "Excuse me, everyone. I thought that for a bit of entrainment I would challenge Naruto to another spar, because this time I don't think Naruto is going to have as much luck as he did the last 2 times. Naruto immediately accepted the challenge and everyone made room for the two. The rules are simple, Naruto. First one to fall loses. Naruto nodded and everyone held their breath waiting to see what would happen. Sasuke began the fight by charging at Naruto. Naruto ducked low when a punch came from Sasuke and Naruto hit Sasuke in the chest and it made Sasuke do a half flip in midair. But in an impressive show of athleticism, Sasuke twisted his body at the last second and landed on his feet. "Nice try, Baka," Sasuke taunted before waving Naruto towards him. When Naruto swung to hit at Sasuke, Sasuke spun on his heel and hit Naruto in the head, which sent him flying at the fence. Naruto flipped in midair and stuck his feet to the fence, which left him vertical. Naruto grinned before flipping off of the fence and releasing his kimono's weight system. He flexed his arms a bit before staring Sasuke dead in the eyes and saying, "You're going down." With that, Naruto began to make hand seals and screamed out, "Phoenix Flare no Jutsu." With that, a burst of light shot from Naruto's hand and hit Sasuke in the eyes. Sasuke screamed and slammed his palms into his eyes as Naruto rushed up and took him down with a sweeping kick. After a few seconds, Sasuke blinked a few times before being able to see again. He was Naruto standing there holding his hand out to help him up. Sasuke grumbled before taking his hand and getting up. After that incident was over with, Naruto looked around before spotting Ayame peeking out from the left side of the house. She was using her index finger to motion for him to come to her. He smiled slightly and made his way to her. She walked back further the closer her got and Naruto continued to follow quietly. Soon, Naruto found Ayame sitting underneath of a willow tree patting the ground gently telling him to sit next to her. Naruto walked over and sat down gently looking at her curiously. "Well, birthday boy, it seems that your birthday party is almost over and I have yet to give you my present." Naruto was about to ask what his present was when Ayame let one hand run through his hair as she leaned in and put her lips on his. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. This was his first kiss and he had to say that he rather enjoyed the way it felt. Slowly, Naruto closed his eyes and gently began to kiss back. Ayame decided that he wasn't that good at kissing and that she would have to correct that little flaw. The thought made her blush as they broke apart for air. They looked into each other's eyes and were panting gently from the excitement of the moment. Slowly, Ayame let herself lean into his body and Naruto wrapped his arms around her, cuddling her up gently. Naruto just laid there for a while holding Ayame in his arms until he realized that she had fallen asleep against him. He watched her chest rise and fall with steady breaths and allowed his eyes to take in everything she was, and he had to say to himself, she was a beautiful person. Naruto gently ran his fingers through her hair before hearing a poof sound and seeing Kakashi step out of the smoke. Naruto removed his hand and just looked at his sensei that he could tell had a big grin on his face. Suddenly, Kakashi's expression hardened and Kakashi spoke out in a firm voice saying, "Naruto, an Anbu just stopped by and told me that our team has been summoned by the Hokage for an important mission opportunity and we need to go now." With that, Kakashi disappeared back to the group most likely. Naruto gently shook Ayame awake, watched with awe at how cute she was when she woke up. "Naru-kun, why did you wake me up?" Naruto blushed slightly at the nickname but whispered to her that she had to get up because he had to go see the Hokage. And so he gently helped her to her feet and they walked back out to the rest of the group who was giving them coy smiles. Naruto simply cleared his throat before putting on the gloves that Kiba gave him, wanting to look his best for the Hokage. Anko told Naruto that she would take the rest of his presents home, and with that, Kakashi, Kiba, Hinata, and Naruto all made their way to the Hokage's office to receive a mission that would change their lives forever. Your mission will be a simple escort mission to the country hidden in the wave. This mission should endure for about a month's time. You will be protecting a bridge builder from most likely bandits while he completes a bridge that will link the wave to the rest of the villages. The third Hokage stated calmly, looking at the four ninjas in front of him. He was glad to see the eagerness in the children's eyes but wasn't surprised to see the bored look on Kakashi's eyes. The third cleared his throat and a tall and half-drunken man stepped into the room. "Oi! You're sending these brats to protect me?" The drunken man slurred out, which made Kiba, Hinata, and Naruto all scowl at the foolish man. "Well, they may just be children, but they have a lot of potential and I'm going to be there so nothing will go wrong," Kakashi said, scratching the back of his head, deciding that he didn't like the man that much. "We may be kids, but we have more skill in our right thumbs than you have in your entire body, you stupid drunk." Kiba growled out and Akamaru barked in agreement. The man turned on Kiba and called him a shorty and told him to be respectful to his elders. Kiba was ready to fly off the handle but Naruto and Hinata held him back. Kakashi decided that he needed to defuse the situation, so he told the kids that they would meet at the northern gate at 7 in the morning and that they shouldn't be late. After Kiba clammed down, they all left and the drunken man followed suit. "Kakashi, there is something else I wish to ask of you," the third stated calmly, and it caught Kakashi's attention. "You of course know of the Ichiraku ramen stand?" Kakashi simply nodded, not sure where this was going. The owner of the restaurant requires supplies that he wants picked up from the wave because one of his family members lives there and will give him the supplies for cheaper. He has asked that his daughter be accompanied by a ninja team for protection, and I was wondering if you think your team is ready to handle a double C rank mission. The third finished and watched Kakashi with careful eyes. Kakashi thought for a moment before declaring, I am confident that my team can handle protecting the bridge builder and Ayame-chan at the same time. Kakashi said, smiling with his eye. The third nodded and gave his thanks to Kakashi. He then dismissed him and Kakashi disappeared in a cloud of smoke. The third smiled very happily, primarily because he was glad that Naruto could now live a normal life. He pulled his file on Naruto and then his smile disappeared. He still had yet to discover anything about Naruto's bloodline, and the third decided that he would have to have a chat with Naruto to see how much he knew. Back at Anko's house, Naruto stepped into the house and saw Anko sitting at the kitchen table holding Naruto's pet snake, letting it wrap around her arm. Anko looked up at Naruto as he entered the kitchen and smiled at him, and he gave a genuine smile back. Naruto sat down and his smile quickly faded away, and Anko eyed him curiously. I'm going to be going on a month-long C-ranked mission to the village hidden in the wave, sis, Naruto said with his head bowed slightly. Anko's eyes softened and she got up and walked behind her brother, wrapping her arms, snake, and all around him, pulling him into a hug. You're going to do just fine, and you'll be back here safe and sound before you know it. Anko whispered into his ear gently, and Naruto found great comfort in it. He closed his eyes and whispered out a yeah, but Anko knew exactly what Naruto was thinking about. Naruto, you have to have your mind clear when you leave. Thinking of home and the people here will cloud your mind and not only jeopardize you, but it will also jeopardize your team who is relying on you for support. Do you understand me? Naruto opened his eyes and nodded slowly, which appeased Anko. But for now, let's get some dinner in you and then I want you to go straight to bed. You have an early day tomorrow. Anko said with a smile on her face. Naruto nodded in agreement, and so they went out preparing dinner and eating. After they were done, Naruto went straight to bed, but he just couldn't shake the thoughts of Ayame out of his head. The next day, when Naruto arrived at the gates, he found to his surprise that everyone else was already there. I'm sorry if I'm late, but my house is on the other side of town. Kakashi waved him off and told him that he was right on time, but they had to wait for one more person. As they waited, Kakashi looked at Naruto, who wasn't carrying a travel pack but rather a large scroll on his back. Aren't you missing some vital equipment, Naruto? Kakashi asked, eyeing the boy with an annoyed look. Naruto patted the scroll and told Kakashi that Anko showed him a jutsu where he could store things inside of a scroll. Kakashi smiled once again with his eye and said, our final person has arrived. Everyone looked up to see Ayame running up the hill with a pack on her back. Even though Ayame was out of breath, she managed to get out in between pants. I'm sorry, I'm late. Kakashi just simply patted the girl on the back and said, it's okay, Ayame-chan. Everyone listen up. Ayame is coming with us to pick up supplies from a family member in the Wave Village. Our mission has been bumped to a double C rank mission, otherwise known as a B ranked mission, because now it's our job to protect two people instead of just one. However, I have faith in you three and I know you can do it. Kakashi then turned and the gate opened. Kakashi began to walk and everyone followed suit. Little did any of them know what was in store for them. Kiba and Hinata took the front of the group, Kiba to use his good tracking scenes, and Hinata to use her Byakugan. Kakashi and Tazuna took the center and Naruto and Ayame took the back. They walked in peaceful silence until they made their way to the boats. Kakashi paid for their tickets and they were all put on a small boat. They floated through the mist for a few hours and remained quiet under the orders of Kakashi because they were currently in mist-controlled territory. Eventually, they reached the foundation of the bridge and were amazed at its size. They all stepped off of the boat and made their way to the top of the bridge, where Tazuna said his people would be working on the bridge at this very moment. Suddenly, Akamaru began to whine and Kiba began to shake slightly. I smell blood, Kakashi-sensei, Kiba stuttered out, and judging from Kiba's reaction, he smelled a lot. They quickly and quietly reached the top, and the sight they saw required Naruto to put his hand over Ayame's mouth to keep from screaming. The workers' bodies were lying everywhere. All of them had been cut in half. Kakashi let his visible eye roam over the entire bridge before sensing danger. Everyone on the ground. Kakashi screamed out and everyone went flat on their bellies with just enough time to watch a massive sword fly right past them and get stuck in a stabilizing beam of the bridge. Suddenly, a figure stepped out of the mist by the sword and pulled it out. Kakashi of the Sharingan I presume? The rough-looking figure asked, pulling the sword out of the beam. Zabuza, Demon of the Mist, and an S. ranked missing nin in the bingo book if memory serves me right. Hinata, Kiba, Naruto, you three protect Tazuna and Ayame. This man is in a league that you aren't ready to face. Kakashi said calmly as he pulled up his headband and revealed the Sharingan eye. Easy, easy Kakashi. Let's make this game a little bit more exciting. Haku, come out of hiding. Change of plans. I want you to kill the brats and take out the target. The other girl I leave to your digression, but if she's a threat, kill her. When Zabuza finished speaking, a boy stepped out of the mist that looked more like a girl. Yes, Zabuza-sama, as you wish. With those few words, the boy known as Haku calmly stepped towards the Kiba, Hinata, Naruto, Tazuna, and Ayame. Naruto stepped forward and said, Kiba, Hinata, I'm depending on you to protect Tazuna and Ayame. Please take care of her, and I'll deal with this punk. Before Naruto had even finished speaking, he had placed the large scroll on his back upon the ground and had removed the weight system from his kimono. Naruto's eyes wandered down to Haku's hands, and saw to his horror that the boy was performing one-handed seals. Before Naruto could act, Haku screamed out, Demonic Ice Mirrors no Jutsu, and both boys were surrounded in a dome of ice mirrors. Naruto watched cautiously as Haku entered into the mirrors and saw that his image appeared on every mirror. Naruto went to reach for his sword, but was reduced to letting out a pained scream as thick needles penetrated his skin all over his body. Naruto then began to try and pull the needles out, but it only resulted in more needles entering into his body. Naruto let out a horrible scream as he fell to his knees. Naruto could see Haku rushing for him and whispered, too fast, before Haku's fist hit Naruto square in the face, sending him crashing through the mirror and tumbling across the ground a few times before coming to a stop on his belly. Naruto groaned as he began to force his body to rise on his feet, but Haku came out of the mirrors and stood before Naruto pulling out some needles. Ayame screamed out to Naruto and ran forward with Hinata screaming out her name, not being able to reach out and stop her. Everything went dead quiet as the sickening sound of metal-piercing skin ringed out through the air. Meanwhile, with Kakashi and Zabuza, Zabuza was in deep trouble. It seemed like every move he tried to perform, Kakashi was one step ahead of him. Zabuza then decided that it was time to use his sword instead of jutsus. Zabuza pulled off his sword and began to swing it at Kakashi. Kakashi began to dodge, but was too late to act when Zabuza kicked him in the chest. The force sent him flying into the water below. As Kakashi rose to the top, his eyes widened in shock when Zabuza appeared behind him doing hand seals before saying, Water prison no jutsu. With that, Kakashi was stuck inside of a ball of water and Zabuza said with a sneer on his face, Now you can listen as my student rips your students into pieces. No sooner had Zabuza finished speaking, did screams fill the air followed by the sound of metal-piercing skin and a deathly silence. Back with everyone else, Naruto got to his knees and looked up to see Ayame standing in front of him with her arms stretched out as far as they could. Naruto's eyes went wide with fear and shock as he saw needles sticking through random parts of her body, including her neck. Naruto could only gasp and Ayame turned her head slightly and said, Naruto, I love you. Please, don't die. And with those words, Ayame fell into Naruto's arms and went limp. Oh God. Oh God, please no. No, Ayame. Ayame, stay with me. Please. Ayame. Wake up. Oh God. Please Ayame, wake up. Please oh God, don't leave me behind. Ayame. Naruto wailed out in pure agony as his body hunched over the body of the girl in his arms. That wouldn't have killed a ninja, however, it was more than enough to kill a civilian like her. But she was courageous and she died a brave death. Truly she would have made a fine ninja, Haku began, but was stopped by fear when he felt killer intent flowing off of the boy in front of him like nothing he had ever felt before. Kid, I will take the life of the boy who took her life away, just give me your body and I will destroy him, the great Kyuubi said from the deep confines of his prison. Naruto only thought for a moment before saying, take his life, do whatever you have to do you stupid fox. With those words, Naruto began to change, His claws and teeth sharpened and enlarged and his eyes became yellow slits. The Kyuubi was free, and he only had one thought in his mind, to destroy the boy in front of him who was shaking in fear. Back with Kakashi and Zabuza. Kakashi closed his eyes tightly and balled his hands into tight fists and shook with sorrow at the sound of his students' wails of sorrow. Zabuza simply chuckled and said, "Your pain has only just begun, Kakashi." But then, Zabuza and Kakashi both felt shock hit their systems at full force when they felt demonic power rising off of the bridge. "Naruto, no," Kakashi whispered in fear, thinking that he may have lost one of his students in darkness forever. "With everyone else. You took her away, my happiness, my reason for living. You snatched her life away. Now you will suffer for what you've done." Naruto, Kyuubi said with hate dripping off of every word. With that being said, Naruto, Kyuubi rushed forward at amazing speed and grasped the boy by his face and slammed his body down into the ground. Kiba grabbed Hinata and pressed her against his chest so she wouldn't have to watch as Naruto lifted up Haku and slammed him back down into the ground over and over again. Kiba didn't understand what could have caused this sudden change in Naruto's power. Kiba began to think that it was his bloodline limit, but he knew that whatever it was, Naruto was going to take that boy's life if his onslaught continued. Soon, Naruto, Kyuubi finished slamming the boy into the ground and dragged him by his face to the edge of the bridge and lifted his body over the edge. Zabuza and Kakashi watched in horror as it seemed that Haku was about to meet a terrible end. In the heavens, a struggle had been going on between a frantic Tobias and a calm Gabriel who had been holding him back. "Tobias, I couldn't let you go before because we had to wait until the most dire need arose, you know that, but now, I am going to release you. Now go, Tobias. Go now and save Naruto before the Kyuubi and the darkness consume him whole." With that, Gabriel let go of Tobias and Tobias flew down towards Earth as fast as he possibly could. Just as Naruto, Kyuubi was about to drop Haku off of the bridge towards his death, Tobias entered into Naruto through his clan's seal and pushed the Kyuubi back into his cage. The killer intent faded away and was replaced by a feeling of calm power. Hinata tried to use her Byakugan, but she immediately cut it off and clutched at her eyes, screaming in pain. "Hinata! What's wrong?" Kiba cried out in surprise as he knelt by Hinata's side, pulling her into a protective embrace. "His chakra, it's changed. It's so bright, it's as if the sun itself was his chakra," Hinata whispered out as she slowly regained her sight. They watched in awe as Naruto set down Haku and said, "You took a Yame's life, but shedding your blood coldly would be below me. However, you can watch as I take down your master in front of your helpless eyes. In that way, you will feel my pain." With that, Naruto jumped off of the bridge and landed on the water with a strange calm power pulsing over him. Zabuza smiled with evil glee as he formed a water clone and sent it at Naruto. "Naruto," Tobias took out his sword and activated it. The clone pulled out the giant sword and swung down to cut the boy in half. Naruto, Kyuubi grasped the sword with both hands and stopped the blade in a parry movie. The clone continued its onslaught of attacks and Naruto was forced to remain in a defensive position. He decided that he really needed to learn how to handle the sword correctly. The clone suddenly disappeared, which caused Naruto to look at the real Zabuza with careful eyes. "Your sword skills suck. You disappoint me, boy, as does Haku. To think that he would lose to someone as pitiful as you. It's a good thing he killed that little girl, otherwise I might have had some fun with her before ending her pitiful existence." Naruto lowered his head and put away the sword. Zabuza laughed, figuring the boy had admitted defeat, but was quickly shut up when Naruto lifted his head and said, "You are going to die." Naruto then rushed at Zabuza at a speed only obtainable through his bloodline. To put it in perspective, his new power made Kakashi look like he was as slow as a turtle. Naruto performed an uppercut that caught Zabuza square in the chin. Zabuza flew straight up in the air, which released Kakashi from the prison. Naruto was amazed. He could feel his power growing with each passing second and he intended to use its power to his full extent. "Naruto-sama, let me enter your mind and I will show you how to perform new jutsus with your angelic chakra." Tobias managed to get the message through his mind and Naruto complied, giving Tobias full access with his mind. Naruto closed his eyes and began to perform one-handed seals with each hand. It was amazing, and it was as if his body knew how to do this all along. When Naruto finished his seals, he said, "Forbidden angelic arts. Kageyaki Taiyo, Shining Sun. Blast no Jutsu." With that, Naruto shot a beam of light from his hand and it pierced Zabuza clean through before he could hit the water. When it was all said and done, Zabuza hit the water and began to sink, but his body was grabbed by Kakashi. With Zabuza over his shoulders, Kakashi followed Naruto back up to the bridge. Kakashi set Zabuza down and walked over to Haku while Naruto ran up to Ayame's body and fell on his knees shedding tears. He fell onto her body and cried miserably as he put his head on her chest. Suddenly, Naruto gasped and placed his ear completely against Ayame's chest. It was small, but she still had a heartbeat. Ayame was still alive. Naruto spun and screamed out, "Hinata! I need your help, hurry! We can still save Ayame." Hinata gently untangled herself from Kiba and ran up to Naruto by Ayame's side. She knelt down and asked, "What do I need to do, Naruto?" Naruto thought for a moment before asking her to open up the Byakugan, and she complied, making a point to only look at Ayame. She followed Ayame's chakra system and saw the points where the needles put her in a death-like trance. Hinata gently got to work and pulled out the needles one by one. When she was done, Ayame arched her back and let out a gasp of air. Naruto immediately pulled Ayame into an embrace and held her tightly, whispering out how he thought he had lost her, and he let tears fall down his face as he said over and over again, "I'm so sorry for not protecting you, Ayame-chan." Ayame sat herself up and hugged Naruto into her, whispering into his ear, "It's okay. You have nothing to be sorry for. I love you so much, Naruto-kun." Naruto grasped onto her tighter and whispered back, "I love you too, Ayame-chan. And I promise from this day forward to protect you always. That is my way of the ninja." And so, Naruto and Ayame continued to hold each other in a loving embrace, but it wasn't meant to last, as Zabuza groaned and got to his feet, a hole gaping in his right shoulder. Kakashi got in front of his students and prepared for another battle, but allowed himself to relax a little bit when Zabuza held up his left hand, asking him to stop. Your boy's aim may suck if he was trying to deal a death blow, but he managed to get the job done. My right arm is useless in this state. With that, Zabuza walked over to Haku and knelt by his side. I was a fool, Haku. Are you gone? Don't worry about me, Haku. You've gone to a better place, but as for me, well, a demon has no place in heaven. Zabuza said. Shock overtook his system as the boy beside him let out a gasp and came back to the world of the living. Haku immediately attached himself to Haku's body and hugged the man who meant everything to him. Zabuza hugged the boy back, simply amazed that he was alive. How cute, Zabuza. But it seems that you and your useless brat just weren't enough to get the job done, and it looks like once again I'm going to have to settle this problem myself. A voice spoke from the distance which made Zabuza's eyes widen in shock. Gato, I never thought that you would show your pudgy, arrogant self around here. Zabuza said calmly as he got to his feet and turned to face Gato, who was with an army of warriors. Demon of the Mist. Not in your condition, prepare to die. Gato chuckled as the men began to march forward. Haku, live on, and please forgive me for having to what I must to set things right. Maybe one day I will see you in heaven. Until then, farewell, Haku. With that, Zabuza put his sword in his left hand and leapt next to Gato. The soldiers stabbed their weapons all over Zabuza's body, but it mattered not, for Zabuza completed his mission by clamming the head of Gato before he fell and died from his wounds. Haku screamed out to Zabuza and tried to move his body in vain. And so Haku wept for his teacher, the one who saved him, his everything. Naruto went to Haku's side and said, I am sorry for all that has happened, but I promise with the power given to me by my bloodline limit that I will avenge your master's death. With that, Naruto walked towards the army and pulled out a scroll. Naruto bit into his thumb and slid his blood across the scroll. He then performed the necessary hand seals and screamed out, Summon. The army shrunk back in fear as a white phoenix with blue-tipped feathers appeared and landed on the bridge, staring the army down. The phoenix was quite large. Naruto knew that it had to be 3 times the size of his first summon, and then it hit him that he had summoned the king of all phoenixes. The phoenix looked down upon the terrified army before saying, I am Fukkatsu, king of all the phoenixes, and I have come to a decision. You have all been judged evil in my eyes. Prepare to die. With that, the gigantic phoenix began to flap its huge wings, which caused the feathers to fall off and fly down on the people below like a rain of needles. By the time the needles stopped falling, the entire army had already been decimated and not one was left alive. Fukkatsu simply watched as Haku finally managed to get onto his feet and stumbled over to Zabuza's corpse. Haku fell to his knees and cried over his falling master. The giant phoenix stared at the fallen man for a moment before saying, "This man did much evil in his lifetime, however, when his life was at an end, he was willing to give it all just to set things right and protect this boy. I have come to a decision. This man has been judged good and as such he will be given new life." With that, the great phoenix shed a few tears which landed upon Zabuza's corpse. Fukkatsu then simply spread out his wings and flew back up to the heavens. When Fukkatsu was out of sight, Zabuza arched his back and gasped in air, his eyes wide as they could possibly be. After huffing and puffing a few times, Zabuza stared with confused eyes at Haku, who simply threw himself against Zabuza and hugged him tightly, crying his eyes out. "You've been given new life, Zabuza. How would you like to use this life in service of the leaf and become one of our own?" Kakashi asked, looking at the man with his regular eye, once again putting his forehead protector back into its original place. Zabuza looked at Haku before looking back up at Kakashi and saying, "For your help and compassion, not only will Haku and I help you complete this mission, we will return with you and ask to become official ninjas of Konoha," Zabuza said, giving his best effort at a smile which turned out to be a smirk. Kakashi smiled with his eye before turning curiously to look at Naruto. "Naruto, this is the first time your bloodline limit has activated, and now I will explain to you exactly what it is. First of all, your chakra has been supercharged. This makes it much more powerful, but now you are going to have to learn how to control it all over again. Second, every jutsu that you use while an angel is inside of you will be archived into your subconscious and you will be able to use them at will. However, be warned, your power with these techniques will not be nearly as powerful as they were when I was inside of you. But you are still strong, Naruto-sama. Train with your sensei and learn how to master your chakra, and at your level you could become a mid-level Chunin rank. But don't get ahead of yourself, that is going to take you quite some time. But sadly for now, Naruto-sama, our time is up, and now it is time for you to rest." With that rather basic explanation of Naruto's bloodline limit, Tobias left Naruto's body and Naruto felt instant battle fatigue. Naruto began to fall but found himself caught in the arms of a panicked Ayame as she lowered herself to the ground with him, using her body as support for his. The last thing Naruto heard was Kakashi telling Ayame that he was just battle fatigued and that he would be fine with rest before sleep overtook him. Naruto groaned as he opened his eyes, only to shut them tightly at seeing the blinding light of the sun. He sat up and quickly rubbed his eyes as he scanned the room he was in. Suddenly memories of what happened the last time he was conscious flooded his mind. Naruto quickly jumped out of the bed and looked down to see that he was in PJ pants with no shirt on. He looked around and found his clothes in a neat pile on a chair next to the door. Naruto sighed as he made his way to the clothes. Just as he was about to reach for them, his ninja sense kicked in as he heard someone approaching the door. He grabbed his sword and hid behind the door. The door slowly creaked open and he heard a vaguely familiar voice let out a gasp before screaming out, "He's gone. He's not in his room." Naruto tensed as he heard the sound of many feet running up the steps and towards his room. He prepared himself as several figures rushed into the room. Naruto leapt and activated his sword as he came down upon the tallest member of the group. The said person turned and gasped as Naruto prepared to strike. Naruto's mind went into overdrive as he realized that the person he was about to strike down was none other than Ayame, the girl he loved. At the last second he turned his body and rolled across the ground before slamming into the wall unceremoniously. The sword deactivated as Naruto rubbed his now sore head. Ayame was by his side in a minute, placing his head on her lap and looking down at him concerned. This of course of action made Naruto blush as he stuttered out, Ayame, it's fine, I'm okay." Naruto slowly sat up and turned to look at Ayame, only to have a hand driven into his cheek very roughly. Naruto held his cheek and looked to see Ayame standing over him with tears in her eyes. You idiot. You had me so worried, don't ever do anything crazy like that again." With that being said, she buried herself into his chest and cried softly, thanking heaven that he was okay. Naruto just sat there and confused as he could be as he consoled his upset girlfriend. "Naruto," a voice called out which caused Naruto to freeze where he was. He turned and saw Haku standing in the doorway. Naruto gently let go of Ayame and was on his feet in an instant, staring the boy down. Everyone watched nervously as the tension in the room grew to strangling levels. "Haku, I apologize for going berserk on you. I pray you are in good health." Everyone let out the breath they were holding as the tension instantly dissipated. "No, Naruto, It is I who most apologize. I almost took away the life of the one you loved. Naruto simply waved his hand and said, "It's fine, you didn't kill Ayame, so no harm no foul, right?" Haku started at the boy, and though incredible, to be able to forgive just like that. Just how powerful are you, Naruto? Well, it looks like you're finally up and at hey Naruto? Kakashi said with his usually lazy persona in place. Naruto looked to his sensei and smiled before giving a small nod. To give a basic explanation, you've been out for 3 days. Zabuza and Haku have decided to come back to the village with us and have been helping me train Hinata and Kiba. The bridge is almost completed and will be done within the next 2 days. As soon as the bridge is done, we will be heading home. Kakashi said as he did his infamous one-eye smile. Naruto nodded again and helped Ayame onto her feet. It was at the moment she noticed that Naruto was not wearing a shirt and blushed heavily. Naruto noticed the blush and looked down at his bare upper body. I think I better get dressed," Naruto said while scratching the back of his head sheepishly. Everyone nodded and left the room except for Ayame. Naruto noticed that Ayame had a strange look on her face. "What's wrong, Ayame-chan?" With that, Ayame flung herself onto Naruto again and locked her lips with his. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise as he caught her. He quickly regained his composure and kissed her back softly as he closed his eyes. Ayame broke the kiss and buried herself in his chest, whispering, "I don't want to lose you, Naruto. Promise me I won't lose you, Naruto." Naruto grabbed her cheeks gently and looked her straight in her eyes as he said, "I'll never give up, and you're not going to lose me anytime soon. I promise you, Ayame." With that they shared another small kiss before Ayame broke away and grabbed up a towel. She put it in his hands and told him to take a shower, get dressed, and come downstairs to get some lunch. Naruto watched Ayame walk out of the room with a small smile on his face. Naruto waited until Ayame closed the door behind her before picking up his clothes and taking them into the bathroom with the towel. Ayame walked down the stairs and smiled kindly to Zabuza, who simply nodded back to her with a small grunt. Ayame walked into the kitchen and saw Tazuna's daughter gathering the necessary materials to make some lunch. Ayame quickly put on an apron and began to hum as she stood next to Tsunami. "Oh sweetie, you don't have to help me make lunch." Ayame turned to Tsunami and smiled sweetly, saying, "It's okay. I want to help make lunch for everyone, it's no trouble at all." Tsunami smiled at the nice girl and went back to cutting up vegetables. With Naruto gasped in pleasure as the warm water hit his skin in the shower. He sunk his head under the water stream and let the water soak down his wild hair. He closed his eyes as he remembered the events of the fight and remembered the terrible power of the Kyuubi. A voice to his right made him jump as it called out, "Naruto." Naruto spun around to see Gabriel standing there with Tobias and Alice standing there with serious looks on their faces. "Hey guys, what's up?" "Kyuubi, you must stay away from him, Naruto. You must not use his power and you must not allow hate to overpower your emotions on the bridge like you did. I say these harsh words for your safety, Naruto. That demon is the most dangerous demon of them all, and to boot he is very tricky. I sense a terrible feeling coming from the seal and I fear that if he is released again something bad will happen to you. You must promise me, Naruto. You must promise me to stay away from the Kyuubi," Gabriel said with a very serious tone. Naruto nodded and looked guilty at the fact that he let himself fall into senseless rage. Gabriel saw this and said, "Naruto, listen to me. Your acts, although foolish, were honorable. You simply wanted to protect the people you love. And although you almost fell into hate and despair, we managed to pull you out just in the nick of time, so basically, don't beat yourself up. Now that you know not to make the same mistake again, you learn from the incident and move on." Naruto gave a small smile and nodded again before seeing someone small hiding behind Gabriel, Tobias, and Alice. "Hey, who's that?" Naruto asked curiously. Gabriel gently grabbed a small girl and brought her out from behind him. "This is Alexis. She is the most intelligent angel and is responsible for information gathering and a few other unmentionable things." The girl bowed slightly and Naruto did the same, letting the water pelt down his back. "To keep this short as to not raise the suspicions of your friends, the Chunin exams are coming up for the ninja villages and you are going to need training. I already know that your teammates are going to train with their families and that your sensei is going to be helping train the Uchiha child who just recently activated his Sharingan bloodline limit," Alexis said before taking a breath and continuing. "We wish to take you on a training trip to teach you some skills to help make you stronger, as well as teach you absolutely perfect chakra control, strength conditioning, and speed conditioning. Alexis finished speaking and Naruto's mouth was hanging open. Sure, the training will be awesome, but I have only one request, Naruto said, watching as all eyes turned on him. I want my sis to come with me and I want her to be able to see you all. I consider her part of my family. I think she should be able to see you guys as well. The angels all seemed to flinch and turn to each other, talking in a huddle. Naruto watched anxiously as the angels talked. Before long they all turned to Naruto and Tobias said, "We need to go discuss this with our superiors. We will give you our decision before you step foot back into Konoha." Naruto nodded and waved goodbye as the four angels disappeared. Naruto quickly finished his shower and dried himself off. Just as he finished getting dressed, a knock came at his door and Kiba let himself in. "Hey Naruto, lunch is ready, so get your butt in gear." Naruto came out of the bathroom and followed Kiba down into the dining area. Naruto saw everyone waiting for him and scratched the back of his head sheepishly. "Sorry guys, I got a bit distracted." Everyone waved him off and both Ayame and Tsunami both said, "It's okay, we just finished getting it ready." Everyone had a pleasant meal and at the end Tazuna said, "Everyone, I have an announcement." Everyone turned their eyes to him and Tazuna took a deep breath. "The bridge will be finished tomorrow. We are so close to accomplishing our dreams and we owe it all to you brave ninjas, who took on a job that was above you and rose to the occasion. And you young man," Tazuna said, pointing to Naruto. "When all hope seemed lost you summoned the giant phoenix and brought back our hope. Because of this I am going to name the bridge the Great Naruto Bridge." With that declaration Ayame squealed and latched herself onto Naruto. Everyone else smiled and nodded and some clapped. While Naruto simply kept his head down. "Stop," Naruto said softly, but the tone of his voice was felt by all and everyone stopped what they were doing and started at him. Naruto unlatched himself from Ayame and got up out of his chair, his face still hidden by his bangs. "Don't name your bridge after me," who showed that deep down inside he is a monster. The entire room was silent until a loud slap echoed across the walls. Naruto looked at Ayame in shock as tears streamed down both of their faces. "Don't you ever call yourself a monster again, or I swear that I will never speak to you again, Uzumaki Naruto. You fought with your entire heart and saved these people. You are not a monster. You are a hero." After speaking her piece, Ayame slammed herself back into his chest and wept. Naruto held her close, whispering over and over again that he was sorry. "She's right, you know, Naruto. Don't beat yourself up over the small details, you have to see the whole picture. Remember, a ninja sees underneath the underneath," Kakashi said with his one-eye smile. Everyone agreed, and with that being said, lunch was cleaned up. The next day was very uneventful. The Great Naruto Bridge was completed and hope was once again restored to the Wave Country. The very next day, Team 7 along with Zabuza and Haku made their way home. The last night of camping before they would reach Konoha, Gabriel, Tobias, Alice, and Alexis came to Naruto while he was on first guard duty shift. "Naruto, we have made our decision." Naruto slowly got to his feet and turned to look at the four angels. Naruto waited anxiously, wanting to know what their choice was. Gabriel took a step forward and took a deep breath. "After deliberating with our superiors, we have decided that we are going to give your sister the ability to see us." Naruto smiled and bowed to them, thankful for their service. The angels immediately took on a somber attitude again, which took Naruto by surprise. "Naruto, I have to warn you that your training will be more intense than anything you have ever experienced before. But before we get to that, it's time that we all went to have a talk with your inner demon." Before Naruto could say anything, Gabriel surged forward and placed his hands on Naruto's head. The next thing Naruto knew, he was standing in front of the massive cage of the Kyuubi. Naruto began to shake in fright as the giant demon came into view and looked down at him. "Foolish little boy, coming to my lair and getting so close, time to die," the Kyuubi said as he brought forth a massive paw and took a swung at Naruto. Naruto closed his eyes waiting for death, but the blow never came. When Naruto opened his eyes, he saw that the paw had caused a massive indentation where he had moments ago been standing. Naruto looked up to see Gabriel standing behind him with a hand on his shoulder. "Don't be scared, Naruto, we are here with you," Gabriel said as Tobias, Alice and Alexia came into view. "Ah, Gabriel-san, how nice of you to join us with your ragtag group of pathetic angels," the Kyuubi said, chuckling darkly. Gabriel took a step forward and boldly said, "Don't talk back to me, you wretched demon, lest I send you back to hell where you belong." Kyuubi chuckled again before saying, "Gabriel-san, there is no need to be spreading empty threats. We both know that if you destroy me that your precious would-be warrior dies along with me. So listen and listen well, Gabriel, because I'm only going to say this once. You will not succeed in your goals for this child. I will break free and I will take this body for my own." In an instant all four angels exploded with energy which made the Kyuubi retreat back rather into his cage. All four angels spoke at once in loud commanding voices as they said, "You shall do no such thing." Gabriel looked to Alexis and said, "Do it now." Alexis stepped up to the seal on the cage and pulled out a strange-looking talisman. The Kyuubi's eyes widened in surprise and he leapt forward roaring with fury. Kyuubi took a swing at Alexis but his paw was stopped by Gabriel. Kyuubi pulled back his paw and swung with the other one. This time Tobias and Alice caught that paw and held it tightly as Alexis finished placing the talisman over the seal. When she was finished, Gabriel grabbed Naruto and they teleported back into the real world. Naruto woke up and sat up from the grass he was lying on. "Naruto, we adjusted the seal so that the Kyuubi cannot contact you at all. However, it isn't a permanent solution. To completely seal away the Kyuubi we would have to get rid of the seal that your father placed on you and set in a new seal. However, this would kill you, so that isn't an option," Alexis said before pausing. "We will be back into contact with you when you arrive at your house. At that point in time we will make it so that your sister can see us." Naruto nodded then bowed to the angels. They bowed back and disappeared just as Kiba came to take over guard duty. Naruto went back to his tent and got inside. As soon as his body hit his sleeping bag, he fell asleep. The rest of the trip was uneventful until they reached Kahona. Everyone sighed in relief, glad to be home. However, their relief was short-lived as several Anbu leapt down around them with weapons drawn. A Anbu wearing a bear mask came forward and said, "Care to tell us why you have an unknown boy and an S-ranked missing ninja in your company, Kakashi-san?" Everyone was tense until Kakashi rubbed the back of his head sheepishly and said, "Oops, guess I forget to send a message ahead to the Hokage." Everyone's sweat dropped as until the bear-masked Anbu composed himself. "We will escort you all to the Hokage Manor, Kakashi-san." Kakashi nodded and followed the Anbu as they began to march to the gates. Everyone followed close behind and couldn't help but notice the extra Anbu around Zabuza and Haku. They eventually made it to the Hokage Manor and were let inside, where the Hokage was waiting with Anbu guards all around him. "What is the meaning of this, Kakashi? Why have you brought missing ninja into our village?" Kakashi explained everything that happened, and when he was done the Hokage seemed pleased with his explanation. "Well, you are all free to go except for you, Zabuza and Haku. You need to come with me into my office." The Anbu immediately began to protest but were stopped when the Hokage simply raised his hand. "I will be fine. Trust me." The Anbu looked wary but knew that the Hokage was not a pushover, so they allowed the two missing ninjas to enter the office with the Hokage. Everyone in Team 7 along with Ayame said their goodbyes and went their separate ways. Naruto rushed home hoping that Anko would be home so he could see her. Naruto entered into his room and immediately noticed that something was wrong. Naruto pulled out his sword and began to quietly stalk through the house, feeling a terrible sense of danger filling the house. As Naruto continued to creep around the house, he felt a presence above him. Naruto tensed as the presence silently leapt down behind him and applied a kunai to his throat. "You must be tired from your long journey to be so easily caught, Naruto-kun," Anko said with a sadistic smile on her face as she brought up the kunai to his cheek and cut it softly as she licked the blood away. Naruto shivered as he felt her tongue on his skin. Naruto remembered how Anko used to be crazy with her bloodlust but had managed to tone it down some. However, when she was in the mood for blood, and it made her very feisty. Naruto tapped his sword against her stomach to make the point that he didn't miss her. She smiled and pulled him around into a fierce hug. "I missed you, little bro. Stuff has been boring without you around." Naruto continued to hug his sister as he said, "Same here, sis. Has the old man not been giving you any exciting missions since I've been gone?" Anko pulled away and pouted, saying, "No, the old fart only gave me one mission and it was far too easy." Naruto sighed and shook his head at his crazy sister's antics. Naruto tensed as he felt the presence of the angels in the room and looked to see them standing in the corner. Gabriel did a few hand seals before saying, Anko. Anko looked over to the four beings and had her kunai in an attacking position. Who the hell are you? Anko growled out as she pulled Naruto behind her protectively. Gabriel chuckled and said, it's nice to see that Naruto was left in the hands of such a caring guardian. Naruto saw Anko relax slightly and he took the time to explain. Big sis, this is Gabriel, Tobias, Alice, and Alexia. They're the angels that I have met so far. They have decided to train me for the upcoming Chunin exams that I believe Kakashi-sensei is going to be placing us in. They want to go for a 2-month training session and they want you to come with us as my guardian and maybe you can teach me some stuff too, Naruto said with excitement. Anko blushed at the mention of Kakashi before regaining her exposure and saying, I'll ask the Hokage if it's okay. I don't think the old fart will have a problem with it. Give me a few minuets and I'll have your answer. With that Anko disappeared into a puff of smoke. True to her word, Anko reappeared with a smile on her face. Kakashi just nominated your team for the Chunin exams and was on his way to tell you and your teammates. Since everyone is going to be away doing other things, the old fart gave us permission to leave the village as long as we don't stray too far away for 2 months. Naruto cheered and the four angels chuckled seeing the rather comical antics of the two humans in front of them. Anko turned to the angels and said, we will leave at first light. I guess you'll be able to find us, right? Gabriel nodded and they all bowed before leaving. Anko turned to Naruto with a smile on her face as she said, okay, time to tell me about your mission, but we are going to do it over Dango. Anko cheered as she marched out the door, Naruto following slowly behind. Truth be told, Naruto was terrified of telling Anko about how their C-ranked mission turned into an A-ranked missions. He was afraid that his big sister was going to go on the warpath and destroy anything in her path to reach Kakashi. They both sat down at the Dango restaurant and ordered their food. So Naruto-kun, tell me about what happened on your big bad, C-ranked mission. Naruto's sweat dropped slightly and said, well you see sis, that's the funny thing. It turns out that our employer withheld some information. You see, because of the poverty of the wave country, he couldn't afford to pay the actual rank of the mission. It turns out that a powerful businessman named Gadu wanted him dead and hired some powerful ninja to exterminate the old man. After all was said and done, the mission turned out to be an ranked 1. The booth went deadly silent as Anko had her head bent down so that her hair was covering her eyes. Suddenly Anko got to her feet and placed some money near him. Naruto-kun, enjoy the dango and please bring some home for me. I have some business I have to take care of that I forgot about. With that being said, she quietly left the restaurant and Naruto knew that meant that destruction and chaos was soon to follow in his sister's wake. He just prayed that Kakashi could hold his own against the hurricane or wrath that was an angry Anko. With Kakashi was sitting in a recliner in his home reading his favorite little orange book when he suddenly sneezed and got a terrible feeling of impending doom. He was startled when his door was kicked in so violently that it flew off of its hinges and completely destroyed his kitchen table. He leaned forward and his visible eye widened in fear as he saw Anko standing in the doorway, her eyes covered by her bangs and waves of anger and bloodlust radiating off of her. An A-ranked mission for 3 genin and 1 junin. Are you just plain stupid, or are you so proud that you can't even call for backup? How dare you put my brother in such unnecessary danger? Anko asked in a dangerous calm voice. Anko-san, don't worry. The situation was under complete control. If I had believed that the situation had gotten out of my team's control, then I would have immediately called for backup. I knew that my team was skilled enough to pull off this mission and I was correct. Anko immediately began to shake as she rushed forward and attempted to slam her fist into his head, however it was caught softly by his hand. She pulled free and began to slam her fists into his chest as hard as she could as she cried out, Yubaka, Yubaka, he could have died. I don't know what I would do without him. With that rare emotional outburst, Anko fell into Kakashi's chest and began to sob. Kakashi held her close and whispered words of comfort into her ear as he stroked her back gently. When she was finished crying, she grabbed onto his shoulders tightly and slammed her knee into his crotch. Kakashi doubled over in pain and Anko said, "Thank you for consoling me, Kakashi-san. Consider yourself lucky, because if you put my little brother into harm's way like that again, I am going to kill you." With that, she blew him a small kiss and walked out the door. Kakashi picked himself off the ground and said, "Troublesome feisty woman." Somewhere off in the hills of Kahona, a lone cloud watching Genin sneezed. Anko made her way home and found a worried Naruto waiting for her at the kitchen table. "You didn't kill him, did you?" Anko laughed and said, "No, I didn't kill him, Naru-kun." She looked at the kitchen table and smiled to see hot dango waiting for her on a plate along with a bottle of chilled sake. Anko thought, "This kid is so amazing, he is going to grow up to become a great man." Anko sat down and began to eat as they both chatted happily about the upcoming training. When Anko had finished eating, he helped her clean up the dishes and they both went to bed. Once again, true to her word, Anko got Naruto up as the first light pierced the sky. Naruto gathered up everything he needed and they both made their way towards the southern gate. When they arrived, a Chunin leapt down and Anko showed him their pass. The Chunin bowed to Anko and waved up for his partner to open the gate. The gates creaked to life, opened up to reveal a luscious forest. Anko took the first steps forward and Naruto followed close behind her. The two traveled for about an hour and a half before they came into a nice clearing. "We camp and practice here," Anko said as she set her back down. Naruto did the same and took the time to get a good look at his surroundings. He knew that that was one of the most important things a ninja could do when entering a new area. "Okay, Naruto-kun, since it seems our friends haven't shown up yet, I'm going to take this opportunity to teach you a very nice genjutsu. It's called Kuki-gi no Jutsu, Final Deception Jutsu, but before you can perform this jutsu, you are going to have to sign this," Anko said as she handed a scroll to Naruto. Naruto took the scroll gently and opened it. He gasped when he realized that it was the scroll for the snake summoning. He looked to see that only 2 names were on the scroll. His big sister's and Orochimaru's. Naruto crumpled the scroll, slightly seeing the name of the person that had hurt his sister so much. Naruto quickly signed the scroll in his blood and handed the scroll back to Anko. She gave him a bittersweet smile, knowing he had seen the name of the person who had broken her heart. "We will get him, sis, one day he will pay." She nodded as her smile turned into a sadistic one as she said, "Time to begin training." Anko quickly went through some hand seals and whispered out her jutsu. Suddenly Naruto saw Ayame coming out of the forest naked as the day she was born. "Naru-kun, I want you." Naruto immediately blushed and looked away, saying, Ayame, what are you doing?" Ayame continued to walk forward and asked, "What's the matter, Naruto, don't you find me attractive?" Naruto turned back and went to reach for her, when suddenly there was a bright flash and he found himself covered in poisoned snakes. "Did you like it, Naruto? This genjutsu has left you in a give up or die situation, so you can see how useful it is," Anko said with a small smile on her face as she called her snakes off of him. After experiencing the jutsu, Naruto took quickly to mastering it. The hardest part was being able to focus his eyes so that he could catch the person in the jutsu. But soon enough he caught Anko in it, and whatever she saw left her in a daze. Just before Naruto was able to ask Anko what was wrong, Gabriel, Tobias, Alice, and Alexia appeared in the clearing. Alexis stepped forward and said, "Naruto-sama, let's not waste any time, we have a lot to do and not a lot of time to do it in." With that being said, Alexis stepped forward and touched his kimono. Naruto let out an "ack" sound as he fell to the ground with a heavy thud. "I have increased your weight to 4 times your current weight. For the next 2 weeks we are going to focus on getting your speed and stealth skills increased, and we are also going to get your chakra level to almost complete perfection." Naruto groaned as he got to his feet, and Anko had her concerns. "I'm not trying to challenge your authority, but isn't this a bit of overkill?" Alexis turned to Anko and bowed before saying, "With all due respect, Anko-san, with the amount of dangerous people in the world, there isn't a limit to the amount of training we could give him so that he would be prepared." Anko couldn't help but agree, but she hoped that these angels weren't going to kill her little brother. "Now Naruto, here is the exercise. We will give you a head start to get ahead. Your goal is to hide from all 5 of us and keep hidden. Each time you are caught you have to do push-ups and sit-ups that will increase in number each time you are caught. Also, in between this exercise, we are going to have you perfect tree climbing and water walking. As rewards, each time you impress us we will teach you a new jutsu or skill," Alexis said in a matter-of-fact voice. "Ready, begin," Alexis said, and after Naruto's eyes widened in momentary shock, he took off as fast as he could under the immense weight. Needless to say, Naruto was found rather quickly by Anko and was forced to start off with 25 push-ups and sit-ups. This went on for the entire week and a half alongside of Naruto water walking and tree climbing with the ridiculous amount of weight. By the end of the time limit, Naruto looked like he was ready to drop dead. Very good, Naruto. In this short time you have managed to hone your speed and stealth skills dramatically, and you have also perfected your tree climbing and water walking exercises. Because you have impressed us 3 times over, you will be given the next 2 days to rest. Then we will teach you 2 techniques, and I will also show you a very useful sword skill. Naruto gave a small woo-hoo before falling into the arms of his sister out cold. Naruto slept the whole 2 days through and was awoken by Anko on the 3rd day. Naruto, they have come back and they are ready to teach you again. Naruto sat up and watched as Tobias came forward to whisper something into Naruto's ear. Naruto smiled as he stood up and removed his kimono. Naruto arched his back and let his wings burst out. "Ever flown, sis?" Naruto said with a smirk on his face as he zoomed forward and grabbed a hold of her. Before she could protest, he leapt up and began to flap his wings, sending them sailing into the sky. Anko clung to her brother, amazed at his new strength, as he held her like she was as light as a feather as he glided through the air with grace and style. After a while, Naruto set her back down on the ground and walked up to the angels with a grin on his face. Gabriel took a step forward and said, "I am going to teach you a sword style now as a reward, Naruto. It is called the Fire Torrent Slash. A simple yet effective attack with a simple yet effective name." Naruto nodded and drew his sword. He activated the fire blade and waited for Gabriel's instructions. It's really extremely easy to do, Naruto, like activating the blade. Imagine launching a wave of fire at your target with all your will and swing the blade. Just make sure that the blade slides across the ground before you arch it up over your head like this. Gabriel said as he grasped Naruto's hands and taking him through the motion. Imagine Naruto using the sword like a golf club, and that's how the pattern of the slash arch. Due to its beautiful simplicity, Naruto mastered the skill with only a few tries. After he was done, Tobias stepped forward and said, "The technique I am going to teach you much harder to learn. It's called Shining Uyeba, Shining Blades. Basically you need to focus your charka into your wing seal and then burst your charka like you wanted to fly up into the sky. Also, you need to have your wings activated to do this attack." Naruto stepped into the clearing and began to try to focus his charka. It took Naruto many tries where nothing happened until suddenly, his wings glowed and feathers began to shoot off of his wings and soared up into the sky. Everyone looked up to the sky, and Gabriel shielded Anko with his wings as everyone else did the same for themselves as the feathers rained down, sticking into everything they hit except for the wings, which they simply bounced off of with a loud, clanging sound. When it was over, everyone removed their wings and looked around to see the field literally impaled with feathers everywhere they looked. Naruto's mouth was wide open and Tobias took the chance to explain. Basically, the amount of charka you pump into the seal determines the attack radius of the attack. Naruto nodded to show that he understood and jumped around, eager to learn his third prize. Alice stepped forward and said, "Naruto-kun, as important as it is be able to fight, it is also important to have skills that can protect those you love. With that in mind, I wish to teach you the Amatsu Toku, Heavenly Shield." Naruto watched as Alice walked over to Anko and did a few hand seals. Anko watched cautiously as Alice reached out with one hand and created a white sphere that surrounded her. Gabriel and Tobias both threw themselves at the shield only to bounce off of it like flies. As you can see, nothing can enter the shield, only leave it. As long as you have your hand inside of the shield, it will stay active. Like the ability Tobias taught you, the amount of charka you pump into it depends on how strong it will be. In this case, it makes the shield stronger. Naruto nodded and immediately went about learning the Amatsu Toku. Unlike the other 2 skills he learned, this one was much harder to learn because it took more concentration and control. Because of this, it took Naruto the rest of the day to master all 3 of the skills. At the end of the day, Naruto passed out while Anko and the 4 angles sat around the fire she had built. "I am going to train him how to use his sword for the rest of this month. Do you have any plans to teach him anything, Anko-san?" Gabriel asked, looking at her. "No, to be honest, I don't know what else to teach him right now. Tell me the truth, how strong is he?" Gabriel thought about it for a while and said, "At his best, high-level Chunin, on average, about mid-Chunin." Anko nodded, glad to hear that her brother was growing so quickly. The angels then stood to their feet and wished Anko a good night before leaving her to a peaceful night's sleep. The last 2.5 weeks of the first month were spent with Gabriel helping Naruto get better at his sword fighting skills. He still hadn't mastered his sword fighting skills, but he was at a slightly above average skill level with his sword. When it was over and done with Naruto, Anko and the four angels gathered around another fire and discussed what would be the final month of training before the exam. Alexis cleared her throat and said, "Naruto, your final training will be to survive on your own with no supplies, no food, and no water. Also, you will have to learn the 2 jutsus on this scroll and also create your own taijutsu combo." With that, the angels all hugged Naruto, wishing him luck, and disappeared. Anko got up and gathered up both her gear and Naruto's gear. She hugged him gently and said, "Please stay safe, I'll be back to get you at the end of the month." Naruto nodded and watched as his sister walked away. 1 month later, Anko was wandering through the forest searching desperately for her brother. Finally, after hours of searching, she found him by the river out cold, being attended to by the 4 angels. They looked up and gave her a smile as she ran up to her brother, concern shining in her eyes. "He accomplished his mission completely and we couldn't be more proud of him. Right now, all he needs is rest to get him ready for the exams, and we have no doubt that he will become a Chunin." Anko nodded and picked her brother up, grunting at the weight of his clothes as she carried him back to their home. Finally, after what seemed like hours, she finally managed to get him back to his bed. Anko took this time to notice that Naruto had lost all the baby fat from his face and it made him look much more mature. Also, his hair had grown to the point where even with the headband on his hair came into his eyes. She also took the time to notice that Ayame would appreciate how toned Naruto's upper body had become. The next time that Naruto woke up, his team was waiting downstairs for him to go to the Chunin arena. Along the way, Naruto chatted with Hinata and Kiba and was glad to hear that they had also grown stronger. For Kiba, he had learned many of his family's jutsus and he also mastered almost all of the ones that he learned. As for Hinata, she had broken out of her shy shell and had rocked her father and the Hyuga elders when she embarrassed her younger sister with the shortest fight in their family history. Naruto smirked, feeling confident that his team would make it all the way to the top and be the all-stars of the tournament. As they entered the building, they saw Sasuke causing a big scene, telling the guards to drop the genjutsu and let them go up to the 3rd floor. Naruto shook his head and muttered out, "Idiot," as everyone filed up to the 3rd floor while Sasuke and some guy in a green suit fought. When everyone finally made it to the 3rd floor, Naruto took the time to look around at everyone in the room. As his eyes scanned over everyone, a red-haired boy in the corner stood out due to the evil aura that was coming off of him in waves. Naruto shuddered as he felt the madness that had corrupted the boy when movements to his left caught his eye. "My name is Inuzuka Kiba and I am going to wipe the floor with all of you," Kiba declared while a panicking Hinata tried with all her might to pull her boyfriend down from the table he had gotten on. Naruto growled as he pulled Kiba down from the table roughly and whispered, "Idiot, stop drawing the attention and anger of everyone here towards us, you're putting us all in unnecessary danger." Kiba muttered out that he was sorry and that he didn't know what had come over him. Naruto looked around and to his horror he saw that his worst fears had come true because every team was glaring at him. Naruto scratched the back of his head sheepishly and said, "Forgive my zealous teammate here, it's how he deals with his nerves." Naruto let out a sigh of relief as all the assembled teams grumbled and let Kiba have one last vicious glare each before they turned away to go back to their own business. "That was close. You should keep your stupid friend quiet if you wish to live long." Naruto turned around and saw a silver-haired man with glasses on staring down at him. "Thanks for the obvious advice. My name's Uzumaki Mitarashi Naruto. What's yours?" The silver-haired man chuckled at the blonde's sarcastic remark and said, "My name is Kabuto. It's a pleasure to meet you, Naruto-kun. I wish you luck in the exams." Naruto watched as Kabuto went over to the rest of the rookie 9 and pulled out some cards. That man reeks of snakes, stay away from him." Hinata, Kiba. They both looked at him strangely, but Kiba understood, knowing that only one person smelled of snakes beside Naruto's sister and himself, and that person was the S-ranked criminal Orochimaru. "Do you think he is somehow connected to that man, Naruto?" Kiba asked quietly. "I don't know, Kiba, but I have a feeling that time will tell." No sooner had he said this than did the sound ninja attack Kabuto and shatter his glasses with the sound wave attack. Naruto watched with interest as the door was kicked open to reveal a tall man with a wrapped-up face. "All right, you little maggots, no more fighting. My name is Morino Ibiki and I am your first examiner. Every team must choose a team leader. All leaders are to line up at the door and wait for further instruction." The large man yelled out as his eyes scanned over all the genins that were participating this year. All the teams began to talk and many choose their team leaders immediately. Team 7 was having a slight bit of trouble deciding who would be the leader because Kiba wanted to be the leader, but Hinata believed that Naruto would be better suited for the job. Kiba-kun, I'm not calling you weak, I just believe that Naruto here is the one to most likely keep his cool under intense situations, and that is what we need in a leader. Kiba finally gave in to his girlfriend's obvious logic and Naruto stepped into line with the other team leaders. Alright. All team leaders will follow me into room 305 for special instruction. The rest of you are to stay here until further notice, and remember, there will be no fighting unless I give you specific instructions otherwise. Anyone who is caught fighting without permission will be removed from the test along with their teammates. With that being said, Ibiki walked out the door and the team leaders followed very closely behind. Once all the team leaders were behind closed doors, Ibiki turned to them all and cleared his throat. As chosen team leaders, it is your responsibility to know your team's strengths and weaknesses. The first part of this test is done in 3 parts. One part is a written test, the second part is a ninja obstacle course, and the third part is a tracking test. You must take one test yourself and assign your other 2 teammates to one test each. Basically, all 3 members of your team will cover all 3 portions of the test. If you do not choose wisely and your team fails, the blame will fall on you. Ibiki took a breath before continuing by saying, when you have made your decisions, line up at the door but don't leave. You will be called out one at a time. When you are called out, you will give your name, the names of your teammates, and which portion of the test you assigned to each teammate. With that said, Ibiki left the room, giving the leaders time to make their decisions. Everyone was in deep thought and Naruto was no different. Kiba simply can't do the written part. Hinata is much smarter and with her eyes she can cheat even if she doesn't know the answers. The problem is who should do the obstacle course. With Kiba's family abilities he would be much better at the tracking tests. I guess that leaves me to the ninja obstacle course. Naruto walked to the door and was second in line behind the red-haired kid who reeked of madness and bloodlust. The boy simply glared at him before turning back to the door. Naruto winced at the terrible feeling this boy gave and couldn't help but shake the feeling that somehow, this boy had something in common with him. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, everyone was in line and they began to be called forward one by one. Everyone gave the information they were required to give and everyone was separated into 3 separate rooms. Naruto watched as more and more other people filed into the room that had been chosen to run the ninja obstacle course. With Hinata was feeling very nervous when she was taken away from her boyfriend and placed into a room with people she either barely knew or didn't know at all. She sat in a seat and watched a female Chunin enter the room and explained that they had been chosen to take a written test to see just how smart they were. The tests were handed out and everyone began just as 4 others entered the room. "You're late, take a seat," the woman said as she handed them tests off of the bottom of her stack. This went unnoticed by quite a few but not by Hinata. She looked down at her test and saw that the questions were ridiculously difficult. "This test isn't to see how smart we are. This test is about how well we can cheat," Hinata thought to herself as her heart began to pound in her chest. She placed her head down on the table and took a few deep breaths as she activated her Byakugan bloodline limit. She quickly looked over the tests of the last 4 people to enter the room and saw that their tests were already answered. She was cheering on the inside at how easily she figured the test out as she quickly wrote down all the answers and deactivated her Byakugan bloodline. She let out a sigh of relief, hoping that the boys on her team were faring as well. With Kiba looked around and thought, what a bunch of chumps, there is no way that I am going to fail a tracking test. His group had been informed of what they were going to be tested on the minuet. They all walked into the classroom where they were assigned. Their goal was to find one of a small set of red bells that smelled like a rose. Kiba tensed as a Chunin came up and said, "Alright everyone, get ready, and go." Kiba leapt forward on all 4s. Akamaru clung onto the hood of his jacket as Kiba shot ahead of the pack, nose sniffing as intently as it could. After about 15 minuets of shopping, and 2 piles of flowers later, Kiba found a bell hidden inside of a gutter on top of the most popular dango shop in Kahona. Kiba gripped the bell tightly and raced back to the starting line, hoping that his teammates were faring as well as he was. With Naruto felt every muscle in his body tighten up, partly from fear and partly from anxiousness, as the red-headed kid who reeked of madness began walking his way, looking him straight in the eye. "What is your name?" the red-haired kid asked as his darkened eyes narrowed slightly. Naruto started at this kid like he had grown another head as he said, Uzumaki Mitarashi Naruto. Why do you ask? The red-haired boy just continued to glare at him and said, My name is Gaara. I can tell that you are strong. I will enjoy spilling your blood in the finals. Naruto shuddered against his will as he watched the boy walk away. Suddenly a Chunin entered the room and said, Follow me to the obstacle course, everyone. Naruto sighed, glad to get a chance to get as far away from Gaara as possible. He still felt that somehow the psycho had something in common with him. He just couldn't place his finger on it. After about 15 minuets of traveling, they arrived at what looked to be a very dangerous-looking obstacle course. Alright brats, listen up. This isn't very difficult. Make your way through the course. At the end there is a wall you must walk up by pumping charca into your feet. Using your hands won't be tolerated. When you reach the top, ring one of the bells, and that will declare that you have completed the course. After the Chunin gave his explanation of the course, he raised his hand and swung it down, yelling out, Begin. Naruto began to race towards the entrance with a grin on his face, thinking that maybe this test wouldn't be as hard as he thought. The grin was quickly wiped off of his face as he jumped over a hurdle, only to find a giant log held up by ropes swinging towards him. Naruto's eyes widened as he quickly hit the ground and did a roll as the log swung over him. Naruto quickly jumped the next hurdle and did a faceplant as the log came swinging back over him. He waited until the log passed over him again before jumping to his feet and leaping over the final hurdle. When he was done, he continued to run forward and he looked side to side to see that only about 3/4 of the competition was left in the running. He grinned as he hit the ground once again and began to crawl through a barbed wire maze. He growled as the barbed wire cut his hands, but he didn't slow his pace as he continued to give it all he had. Pretty soon Naruto was back on his feet and saw that there was a set of stepping tires that he had to run through. Naruto heard a strange ticking sound and looked down in horror to see that Spike slid into the holes of the tire and realized that they would impale his ankles if he didn't move fast enough. Naruto picked up the pace as he heard the sounds of screaming around him from some genins suffering a terrible fate at the hands of the tires of doom. Finally Naruto made it through all of the tires and found himself at the wall. Naruto grit his teeth as he took a running start and began to pump charca into his feet. Though Naruto was feeling winded due to the amount of extra weight he was lugging around, he decided to run all the way up the wall and finally he was at the top. Naruto grinned as he rang the bell, happy to know that he had come in at first place. After the race, Naruto was led back into the room he was in before and waited as the rest of the leaders were led back in. They watched as the man named Ibiki entered back into the room. Congratulations to all of you who passed your tests, but it's not quite over yet. You must all make an important choice now. Do you trust your teammates? If you don't believe that your teammates passed their tests, then you can decide to move ahead yourself. However, by doing this your 2 teammates will fail. It's time to make your decision. What happens if you choose to believe in your teammates? One genin asked. Good question. If you choose to believe in your teammates and even one of them has failed, you will all be failed and you will not be able to try for the Chunin exams for another 5 years. Now make your decisions. Naruto heard a lot of gasps come from the leaders and he had to admit that the thought of failing and not being able to try out again for another 5 years made him flinch. But it was then, in that small moment, that he remembered his sensei's words, a ninja must look underneath the underneath. Little did Naruto or the rest of the team leaders know that in the other 2 rooms the same question was being asked to their teammates as well in an attempt to create division and doubt amongst the teams. This would determine who not only had a sense of loyalty, but would also show who had the clarity of mind necessary to see through deceptions, 2 skills that were extremely essential for being a Chunin. Luckily for Team 7, the wise words of their sensei rang clear in their minds over and over again, a ninja must look underneath the underneath. With those words in mind, Kiba, Hinata, and Naruto all choose to believe in each other, and they passed the first test. The next thing they knew, they were all led to a new room and they all ran up to each other discussing their ordeals with each other. After a few minuets of waiting, a new man walked into the room and everyone turned their eyes to him. Hello you brats, my name is Jiraiya and I'm your second examiner. Come with me and I'll explain the test once we get where we are going. With that being said, Jiraiya looked at Naruto and thought, this boy, this is the son of my ex-student, Arashi. You would be proud of your son if you could see him today. As they traveled towards their destination, Jiraiya remembered the conversation that the Hokage had with him to convince him to be the second examiner. Flashback. Why did you call me back here, sensei? What was so important that you couldn't put it in a scroll, even in code? an impatient Jiraiya said as he stared down his sensei, the third Hokage. The Hokage got out of his chair and walked to his giant window that overlooked the village. I believe that your student's son is ready to learn his father's legacy and skills, Jiraiya, and you are the only one who can teach him. Jiraiya bit his lip as he thought about this offer. On one hand, he was going to have to lug this brat around with him wherever he went. On the other hand, it was his only student's son and he knew that he owed to Arashi to teach his son. Fine old man, but he better not be a giant brat, and he has to be able to leave the village with me after the exam because I'm not staying here. The Hokage nodded his permission and said, everything will be done as you ask. Now with the matter of meeting him, I have just the solution. End flashback. Jiraiya growled lightly at how easily he had been roped in by the old man when he realized that they had already reached their destination. Jiraiya stopped and waited for everyone to catch up and catch their breaths. Welcome to the Forest of Death, everyone. The rules of this test are very simple. Make it to the tower at the middle of this forest with your team intact. The catch is, one member of your team will be put under a paralysis jutsu so that they can act as an injured teammate. One person will act as scout for the team and it is the already chosen leader's job to carry the injured teammate and keep his team safe until you reach the tower. In the forest there are numerous Chunin and Junin who will try to incapacitate you and your team, thus making you fail the test. Your secondary objective is to keep away from these Chunin and Junin or fight your way past. With that being said, Jiraiya began to hand out forms to everyone. This is a release form so that this village won't be responsible if you are killed during this test. Everyone signed the papers and handed them back to Jiraiya, who tucked them away into a safe place. With that, everyone choose the person to be injured for their teams and Naruto chose Kiba so that Hinata could use her eyes to be a scout. After Jiraiya created several shadow clones and went about creating injured teammates, he said, let the second test for the Chunin exam begin. Naruto quickly picked up Kiba and said, Hinata, stay ahead but keep within my eyesight, keep watch for any of the Chunin or Junin. Kiba groaned as they raced into the depths of the forest. Several miles into the forest and 3 missed Chunin, Junin later, Hinata fell back to Naruto and said, it seems that Sasuke and his team are fighting someone, however, this person has far too much charka to be a Chunin or a Junin. I fear that Sasuke may be in danger. Naruto growled as he set Kiba down. Hinata, protect Kiba until I get back, I will go scope it out. Hinata nodded and went to tend to her boyfriend as Naruto jumped ahead to find Sasuke. When Naruto finally found Sasuke, he found that both of his teammates were out cold on the ground and that Sasuke was fighting a losing battle against this strange man. Naruto got himself ready and waited for the right time to ambush the powerful man when he was his chance. Naruto ran forward, watched in horror as the man turned around and grinned like a maniac as he swung a back fist and connected with Naruto's cheek. Naruto went flying into a tree and had just gotten to his feet when the man rushed forward and grasped Naruto's neck. Ah, they Kyuubi brat, let's see that seal, Orochimaru said as he raised up Naruto's kimono. Once again, Orochimaru grinned like a maniac as he cried out, 5-finger seal, as he slammed his fingers into the seal, causing Naruto to cry out in pain. Inside the Kyuubi's cage, the Kyuubi growled as he felt his cage shake, but his attention was immediately caught when he was the talisman fall off the seal as the seal began to dim down. The Kyuubi laughed with excitement as he slammed into the seal, giving him just enough to take control for a few moments. At the same time, in the heavens, Gabriel released Tobias and realized in horror that the Kyuubi had temporary control of Naruto's body. He gasped when he realized what the Kyuubi had planned as he screamed out, Tobias! Wait! But it was already too late. With Naruto and Orochimaru, the Kyuubi took over Naruto's body at the last second and moved so that Tobias entered into the cage seal instead of one of the bloodline seals. Tobias was forced into the seal, which released the Kyuubi. The Kyuubi began to laugh, but it was short-lived as he felt that the boy was still in control. How is this possible? No matter. I can now influence the boy to do my will until I find a way to completely take over, the Kyuubi said as he began to influence Naruto's mind to wake up and destroy the man in front of him. Orochimaru was about to toss Naruto away when he suddenly felt that something was wrong. He looked back to the boy and saw that his white and gold clothes had turned black with a red outline and that his hair had grown very long. Naruto opened his eyes to reveal deep bloodlust raging in them. Naruto grasped Orochimaru's hand at the wrist and snapped it easily as he lifted up his leg and kicked him in the ribs, causing a few to snap. Orochimaru groaned as he jumped backwards and said, "You won this round, brat, but I will have my prize in the end," Orochimaru said as he disappeared. Naruto fell to one knee panting as he heard this terrible voice in the back of his head whispering terrible things to him. Tobias was slamming on the cage panicking, knowing that the Kyuubi was free to ravage Naruto as he pleased. In the heavens, Gabriel was pacing back and forth, knowing that something terrible had happened when he lost contact with Gabriel. Gabriel made the decision to fly down and check on what was going on. The sight that greeted him left him in shock. Gabriel looked Naruto over and knew that somehow the demon was free. "Kyuubi, what have you done?" Naruto began to laugh softly as he started at the angel with hate in his eyes. Now I know the truth. You lied to me. I could have had so much more power with the Kyuubi in my bloodline, but you tried to seal him away because you were jealous of him." Gabriel's eyes narrowed dangerously as he knew that somehow the Kyuubi hadn't taken complete control, but that he was polluting Naruto's mind with thoughts like these. "Naruto, you know that what you just said isn't true. The Kyuubi is dangerous and you must fight him now." Naruto took a step back and turned to flee from the angel. Gabriel was about to give chase, but he knew that he had to go back to the heavens and explain what had happened and come up with a strategy to seal the Kyuubi away again. With that thought in mind, Gabriel warped away, praying that they would not be too late to stop the Kyuubi. After a few minuets of racing, Naruto made it back to his team and Hinata raised an eyebrow at Naruto. "Another transformation for my bloodline limit, it's time to go." With that, Naruto picked up Kiba and they raced towards the tower. The end. Now we will see you in the next video.